The Stroop effect is a fascinating phenomenon in psychology that showcases how our brains process information. Named after John Ridley Stroop, who conducted research in the 1930s. This effect illustrates the interference that occurs when the mind faces conflicting stimuli. At its core, the Stroop effect occurs when the name of a color is printed in a color that differs from the name itself. For example, the word red might be printed in blue ink, or green might appear in yellow ink. This simple yet compelling visual contradiction leads to intriguing cognitive challenges. To better understand the Stroop effect, think of a situation where you are presented with several words, each representing a different color, but written in colors that do not match the words. This requires you to pause and focus more than you might expect. You might find it easy to read the word red, but confusing when that word is written in blue. This is because your brain is trying to process two competing sources of information, the actual color of the ink and the color name conveyed by the word. Interestingly, the Stroop effect isn't just a quirky brain trick, but a window into how our cognitive processes work. When you read a word, your brain automatically recognizes it as language, and reading becomes nearly second nature. This automatic response can overpower the competing task of identifying the color of the ink, causing delays and errors in the response. In experiments designed to test this effect, participants are often asked to name the color of the ink as quickly as possible. Researchers have found that when the ink color contradicts the word's meaning, participants take longer to respond. In contrast, when the word matches the ink color, participants can name it more quickly. This difference in reaction time highlights the impact of cognitive interference. Moreover, the Stroop effect can be explored in different variations. Sometimes, researchers modify the tasks to include more complex arrangements, such as adding distractor words that are not color names, or using various color shades. This brings about even greater insight into how attention and cognitive control operate. The implications of the Stroop effect extend beyond just a simple experiment. It provides valuable insights into our everyday lives, particularly in understanding how multitasking and attentional control function. For instance, think about when you are multitasking, juggling various responsibilities. Just like trying to read the color of the word while understanding its meaning can create struggles, our brains often face similar conflicts in daily situations. This shows how easily our attention can be pulled in different directions. Another intriguing aspect is how the Stroop effect can be influenced by practice and experience. For instance, in learning environments, students who frequently engage in reading activities might show a reduced Stroop effect because their brains become more adept at managing conflicts. This suggests that cognitive training could potentially minimize such interference. The implications of the Stroop effect can also be seen in various areas, such as mental health. People with conditions that affect cognitive control, such as anxiety or ADHD, may experience a more pronounced Stroop effect. This makes it challenging for them to manage conflicting information effectively, pointing to how cognitive processes are not just academic, but deeply interconnected with our emotional well-being. The world around us is filled with instances of cognitive interference, not just while reading color names. Consider how advertisements often use colors in unconventional ways to grab attention. Companies might choose to print "sale" in bright, eye-catching colors, leveraging our brain's automatic processing and directing our focus even when we're not consciously aware. Additionally, creative expressions in art and design frequently explore contrasts similar to those seen in the Stroop effect. Artists might use colors that clash with the subject of their work to evoke emotions or provoke thought, reflecting how perception works and how our minds react to visual stimuli. The interplay of colors and words in our surroundings enriches experiences, but can also lead to moments where our cognitive abilities are tested. In conclusion, the Stroop effect serves as a captivating exploration of our cognitive processes, illustrating how conflicting information influences how we respond to the world around us. From everyday tasks to artistic endeavors, awareness of this effect not only deepens our understanding of human behavior and cognitive function, but also encourages us to appreciate the complexities of our minds. Experiencing this cognitive dance reminds us of the remarkable capabilities of our brains and the intriguing challenges they navigate every single day. Change blindness is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that reveals just how limited our attention can be. Imagine you are watching a movie, completely engrossed in the story. Suddenly, a character's shirt changes color, or a building in the background disappears. If you are not particularly attentive at that moment, you might not even notice those major changes. This ability to miss significant alterations in our visual environment highlights some intriguing facets about how we perceive the world around us. To provide a clear picture of change blindness, let's consider a simple experiment often used to demonstrate this concept. Picture yourself looking at two images displayed side by side. At first glance, they appear identical, but after a moment, one of the images is altered in some way. Perhaps a tree is removed, or a person is added. When you try to identify the differences, you may find it surprisingly challenging to spot the changes, even though they can be quite substantial. This task illustrates how our visual perception relies heavily on attention. The concept of change blindness challenges the common belief that we are fully aware of everything happening in our surroundings. In reality, we often only notice a fraction of what is taking place around us. Your brain processes a vast amount of information every second, but it can only focus on a limited number of details at once. This limitation leads to gaps in our awareness. The result? Large changes can occur right before our eyes, yet go unnoticed. Interestingly, this phenomenon is not only limited to static images, it also applies to moving scenes in our daily lives. For example, think about a busy street. While you might be focused on a conversation with a friend, changes in the scenery, like a new car passing by or a construction site that wasn't there a moment ago, might escape your attention entirely. This is not due to a lack of observational skills, but rather because your brain prioritizes specific information while filtering out the rest. So why does change blindness exist? One explanation lies in how our visual system works. Our visual perception is a selective process. Instead of processing every little detail, our brains prioritize information that seems most relevant at the moment. This means that during your everyday activities, you might focus on a specific person you are talking to or a particular item you are trying to find, while other elements fade into the background and become less noticeable. This phenomenon has been explored through various studies and experiments. In one, participants are shown a video of two identical scenes with a noticeable change happening between them. Participants often struggle to identify the differences, even when they are large and obvious. This leads researchers to conclude that our brains may not be as trustworthy as we think when it comes to noticing changes in our environment. Moreover, change blindness has significant implications beyond simple observation. It can shed light on crucial areas such as eyewitness testimony. If a witness is focused on one aspect of a crime scene, they may miss critical evidence due to change blindness. Therefore, when analyzing what happened in a particular event, eyewitnesses might provide accounts that overlook important information, making it crucial for investigators to consider this limitation when evaluating testimonies. In everyday life, change blindness also reminds us of the importance of mindfulness. Being aware of our surroundings helps us notice changes and details we might otherwise overlook. Simple practices, like taking a moment to pause and observe, can enhance our awareness and lead to a richer experience of the world around us. Furthermore, this phenomenon has applications in fields such as design, marketing, and safety. By understanding how people process visual information, designers can create more engaging advertisements or user interfaces that capture attention effectively. Similarly, in safety contexts, awareness of change blindness can inform the ways that critical information is presented, ensuring that important messages are noticed. As you navigate through your day, remember that what you see is only a fraction of the world around you. With this in mind, consider the numerous changes happening all at once, each one a testament to the complexity of life. Change blindness not only illustrates the limits of our visual perception, but also invites us to appreciate the beauty of the little details that may so easily go unnoticed. By recognizing this phenomenon, you can cultivate a deeper awareness and appreciation for the dynamic world you inhabit. Embrace the richness of your surroundings, for there may be changes waiting to be discovered right in front of you, just asking for your attention. The Muller-Lyer Illusion is a fascinating optical phenomenon that challenges our perception of length and distance. You might be wondering how a simple image can trick our minds into seeing something that isn't there. This illusion was first introduced by the German psychologist Franz Karl Muller-Lyer in 1889, and it continues to intrigue people even today. Imagine two straight lines of equal length. Now, add arrow-like tails at the ends of each line. On one line, the tails point inward, creating a visual perception that makes the line seem shorter. On the other line, the tails point outward, leading us to perceive that line as longer, even though both lines are exactly the same length. How can this be? This is what makes the Muller-Lyer illusion so compelling. Your brain, in its quest to make sense of visual information, often relies on surrounding cues to interpret size and distance. The arrow tails create a context that tricks the brain into interpreting the length of the lines differently based on their endings. This visual trickery illustrates how our perceptions can be manipulated, revealing the complexities of human cognition. This illusion doesn't stop at just lines and arrows. It extends to shapes and three-dimensional objects, showcasing how perception can vary based on visual context. For instance, consider the famous image of a circle surrounded by a larger circle. The smaller circle appears smaller when it is surrounded by a much larger circle, even though they are the same size. It highlights how our brains compare objects relative to their surroundings, instead of viewing them in isolation. The Muller-Lyer illusion also opens the door to understanding the principles of perspective and depth perception in art. Artists often use similar techniques to create a sense of depth or to manipulate the viewer's perception of space. By learning to play with forms and their surroundings, artists can evoke emotions or convey meanings beyond the immediate visual information. Furthermore, research into the Muller-Lyer illusion provides insight into psychological concepts such as the Gestalt principles of perception. These principles explain how we organize visual elements into groups or unified wholes. The brain tends to interpret configurations rather than focusing on individual components. This is evident in how we perceive complex images, where shapes and lines blend into recognizable forms. The cultural aspect of the Muller-Lyer illusion is also quite intriguing. Studies have shown that people from different cultural backgrounds may experience the illusion differently. For example, individuals raised in societies that primarily use straight lines and structured architectures may perceive the illusion more distinctly than those from cultures that emphasize curved lines and organic forms. This highlights how our environment and experiences shape our sensory perceptions. Exploring the nature of optical illusions can also lead us to wonder about how we interpret the world around us. Our brains fill in gaps, make assumptions, and often prioritize certain visual information over others. This can be seen in everyday scenarios where our first impressions may not reflect reality. A shadow might appear darker than it is due to surrounding light, or a familiar object seen from an unusual angle may seem strange and unfamiliar. The Muller-Lyer illusion also serves as a reminder of the power of visual manipulation, a concept that artists, architects, and designers leverage in various fields. In advertising, for example, visuals are crafted carefully to elicit emotional responses or to highlight certain features. By understanding how perception works, these creators can design more compelling images that capture attention and influence decisions. One exciting application of this understanding of perception extends beyond art and design into the world of technology. Virtual reality and augmented reality experiences depend greatly on our understanding of perspective and depth. By using elements similar to the Muller-Lyer illusion, developers can create environments that feel immersive and realistic, tricking the brain into experiencing depth and presence where there is none. In a way, the Muller-Lyer illusion encapsulates a broader lesson about the limits of human perception. It teaches us that what we see is often not the full story. Our perceptions can be guided, shaped, and distorted by various factors. This opens up further avenues of exploration within psychology, neuroscience, and even philosophy. Questions about reality, perception, and how we know what we believe to be true. To recap, the Muller-Lyer illusion invites us to dive deeper into the mechanisms of perception. It serves as a reminder that our understanding of the world is constructed rather than simply received. This simple, yet profound illusion illustrates the incredible intricacies of how we perceive the space around us, how our experiences shape our views, and how our brains are wired to interpret the visual stimuli we encounter. So next time you encounter this illusion, take a moment to reflect on the wonders of perception and how it shapes our understanding of reality. Inattentional blindness is a fascinating phenomenon that highlights how our attention works and how it can sometimes fail us in surprising ways. Imagine you are watching a thrilling basketball game. You are completely absorbed in the fast-paced action, focusing intently on the players as they dribble the ball, making passes, and attempting to score. Suddenly, something unexpected happens. A person in a bright gorilla suit strolls right across the court, waving their arms. Interestingly, many spectators, just like you, might not even notice this unusual sight. This scenario illustrates inattentional blindness perfectly. So what exactly is happening here? Inattentional blindness occurs when we are so engrossed in one task that we become blind to other things happening around us. Our brains are designed to focus on specific stimuli to process information effectively. While this ability allows us to concentrate on important tasks, it can also make us oblivious to other equally significant details we might miss. Take a moment to consider when you are driving. You might be completely focused on navigating through traffic, keeping an eye on the road ahead. However, if you are deeply engaged in a conversation with a passenger or listening to your favorite podcast, you might miss a pedestrian trying to cross the street or even a stop sign. This is another example of inattentional blindness in action, and it emphasizes how our focus can create blind spots, even in critical situations. Another everyday scenario illustrating this phenomenon involves multitasking. Imagine you are preparing dinner while also watching a cooking show on your tablet. You might be trying to chop vegetables and listen to the chef's instructions at the same time. But if the chef suddenly demonstrates how to flambe a dish with a burst of flames, it might completely escape your notice because you were so focused on preparing your ingredients. Inattentional blindness shows just how powerful and selective our attention can be. Our brains have limited processing capacity, meaning we prioritize certain information over others. This prioritization is what enables us to function effectively, but can lead to overlooking important details in our environment. It is particularly fascinating to note that this effect is not due to a lack of effort or awareness. Instead, it is a fundamental aspect of how human perception operates. Researchers have conducted various experiments to study this concept further. In one of the most famous studies, participants were asked to count the number of passes made by players in a video. During this time, an unexpected element, such as a person in a gorilla suit, would walk through the scene. Despite the prominence of the gorilla, many participants failed to notice it at all. This surprising outcome reinforces the idea that when we direct our attention to a specific task, we can miss unexpected events that might seem obvious when we aren't focused. Inattentional blindness isn't limited to visual stimuli alone. It applies to other senses as well. For example, during a loud concert, you might be so wrapped up in the music and the atmosphere that you do not hear someone calling your name from the crowd. This demonstrates that our attentional resources are limited, and we often prioritize the most relevant stimuli in our immediate environment. Interestingly, inattentional blindness can have both positive and negative implications. On one hand, it allows us to concentrate deeply on tasks that require our full attention, such as studying for an important exam or performing intricate work requiring focus. On the other hand, it may pose risks, particularly in situations requiring awareness of multiple elements simultaneously, such as driving or operating machinery. The phenomenon serves as a reminder of our cognitive limitations, encouraging us to think about ways to enhance our awareness in everyday activities. Being mindful and occasionally taking a step back from focused tasks can help create a broader perspective, ensuring that we do not overlook important details in our surroundings. One strategy to combat inattentional blindness is to periodically shift our attention. For example, if you find yourself intensely engrossed in a project, take breaks to scan your environment. This simple adjustment can make a noteworthy difference in enhancing awareness and keeping you attuned to changes around you. Additionally, cultivating mindfulness can also help. Practicing mindfulness techniques, like being present in the moment and observing your surroundings, can enhance your ability to notice unexpected elements. Engaging in activities that encourage observation, like nature walks or mindful breathing exercises, can strengthen this awareness over time. In summary, inattentional blindness is a powerful reminder of how our attention works and what we might miss when we concentrate too intensely on a single task. It paints a vivid picture of the selective nature of human perception while highlighting the importance of awareness in our daily lives. By recognizing this phenomenon, we can learn to take advantage of our cognitive capabilities while also becoming more mindful of our surroundings, ensuring we stay attuned to the fascinating details of our world. Rubin's vase, created by the Danish psychologist Edgar Rubin in the early 20th century, is a remarkable example of a bistable image. This means that the image can be perceived in more than one way, depending on how the viewer interprets it. The illustration is simultaneously recognizable as either a vase or two faces in profile looking at each other. This duality captivates the mind and showcases the complexities of human perception. At first glance, many people see the vase, a simple yet elegant form that sits at the center of the image. The contours of the vase are smooth and visually pleasing, almost inviting the viewer to imagine what the vase might hold. Its shape is familiar and evokes thoughts of beauty and decoration, or perhaps the fragility of glass. The color and shading techniques used in the illustration highlight the contours of the vase, making it the focal point in many viewers' minds. However, once you begin to focus on different areas of the image, the two faces appear. These profiles are formed by the negative space around the vase. These faces are looking towards each other, suggesting an intimate connection and conversation happening between them. The facial features, though simple and abstract, are easily recognizable, with eyes, noses, and mouths formed by the very contours that create the vase. The astonishing aspect of Rubin's vase lies in its ability to switch back and forth between these two interpretations. You might start by seeing the vase, but as you shift your focus, the faces may suddenly come into view. This dual perception leads to a fascinating exploration of how our brains process visual information. Our perception is not merely dictated by the objects in front of us, but by how we interpret and engage with them. You may notice that the experience of seeing the vase versus the faces can evoke different feelings and thoughts. The vase might remind you of tranquility or beauty, perhaps invoking memories of a favorite flower arrangement, while the faces can prompt reflections on human connection, dialogue, or even the duality of nature. This phenomenon highlights how perception is not just about physical sight, but also involves personal interpretation and emotional response. Rubin's vase serves as a powerful reminder of the complexities of the human mind. It exemplifies Gestalt principles, particularly the understanding that our brains organizes visual information into meaningful patterns. Gestalt psychology teaches us that we often perceive complete forms rather than just clusters of individual elements. From this perspective, the vase and the faces exist together as part of a whole, yet each can dominate our perception at different times. This image is not only interesting, but also serves as a tool in various fields, from art to psychology. In art, artists explore similar themes of duality, perception, and the interplay between the viewer and the artwork. In psychology, Rubin's vase may be used to understand how individuals process visual information differently. Each person brings their unique experience, expectation, and understanding, leading to varied interpretations of the same image. An intriguing aspect of dual images like Rubin's vase is how they demonstrate the power of focus and attention. What we choose to concentrate on reshapes our experience. Often, our first impression governs our interpretation, but with a little effort, we can train ourselves to shift our focus and see the unexpected elements within the same composition. This practice can enhance our overall awareness, not just in visual perception, but across various aspects of life. Engaging with dual images encourages cognitive flexibility. By reminding us that there are multiple perspectives, it opens our minds to the idea that there might be more than one solution to a problem or interpretation of a situation. Just as we might flip between seeing the vase and the faces, we can learn to approach challenges from different angles. In a world filled with stimuli, Rubin's vase is a gentle reminder to embrace complexity and nuance in our perceptions. It encourages us to look beyond the obvious and question our interpretations, provoking curiosity about what else we might find when we look deeper. Exploring such an image can become a delightful experience, allowing for endless contemplation and reflection. In a sense, Rubin's vase captures the essence of human experience, where beauty and interpersonal connection coexist, and where our perceptions can shift as we change our focus. Whether envisioning the serene vase or the thoughtful profiles, the image propels us to appreciate the intricacies of our interpretations and the artistry woven into the fabric of visual perception. So take a moment to reflect on this fascinating image. With each switch between the vase and the faces, you may uncover not only the depths of perception, but also the layers within your own understanding of the world around you. The duality presented here resonates not just on the canvas, but in our daily lives, offering pathways to understanding differences, celebrating diversity, and expanding our horizon. Imagine standing on a vast, endless spiral staircase. As you ascend, the sound of music follows, gradually increasing in pitch. It seems to rise forever, creating an ever-ascending experience that is both captivating and somewhat perplexing. This auditory illusion is known as the Shepard's tone, a creative phenomenon that plays tricks on our ears and our perception of sound. The Shepard's tone was developed by psychologist Roger Shepard in the 1960s. He discovered that by layering tones at specific intervals, he could create a sound that perpetually seems to ascend in pitch, without ever actually reaching a peak. This effect is achieved through the clever manipulation of auditory perception and pitch relationships. To understand the Shepard's tone, let's break it down. The foundation of this illusion lies in a series of tones organized in octaves. Imagine 3 separate tones, each spaced apart by an octave. As one tone gradually rises in pitch, another tone fades out. This gives the impression that the overall sound is on an unending ascent. The trick lies in this overlapping. While one tone is fading, another is beginning to rise. One way to visualize this is to think of a Ferris wheel. As one cart reaches the top, another is just beginning its journey upward from the bottom. So even though it appears that the entire wheel is ascending, the individual carts are consistently moving in a cycle, never reaching a conclusive end. This auditory illusion plays a prominent role in various forms of media. It can be found in film scores that aim to create tension or a sense of urgency. For example, during a climactic chase scene, a Shepard's tone might be implemented to evoke an exhilarating feeling, making the audience feel as if something extraordinary is about to happen. The sound pulses with energy, feeding into the heart-pounding excitement of the visuals. Beyond cinema, the Shepard's tone has made its way into modern music. Artists often experiment with this illusion to evoke powerful emotional responses. It can create a sense of uplift, giving the listener the feeling of gradual movement towards something incredible. Some electronic music producers have adopted the Shepard's tone in their tracks to subtly build excitement, adding layers of depth to their compositions. Moreover, this phenomenon isn't confined to just musical contexts. The Shepard's tone can be explored within the realm of cognitive psychology. Researchers study how humans perceive sounds and how our brains interpret layering and pitch. The continuous rising sound plays with our expectations, demonstrating how perception can be manipulated through sound design. Throughout history, artists have combined visual and auditory elements to bring their work to life. The Shepard's tone once again highlights the intricate relationship between sound and human emotion. Just as a painter uses colors to convey mood, composers craft melodies to evoke feelings. The continuous ascent of the Shepard's tone parallels life's journey, a reminder that even when we feel we are moving forward, a deeper exploration reveals layers beneath the surface. While the Shepard's tone may seem like a modern construct, the ideas behind it can be traced back to classical music. Composers like Bach utilize similar techniques to create a sense of movement and harmony. The cyclical nature of the Shepard's tone resonates with traditional forms, showcasing the timelessness of musical innovation. Imagine now that you are exploring a lush forest. Within this serene landscape, the sound of a babbling brook rises and falls, much like the Shepard's tone. As different sounds come to life, they intertwine and weave together, creating a rich tapestry of auditory experiences. You might notice how one sound fades and another rises to fill the space, much like the layers found within the Shepard's tone. As this exploration unfolds, remember the captivating illusion of the Shepard's tone. Engage your imagination and let yourself be enveloped by the continuous ascent of sound. Recognize how this auditory experience invites you to linger, to wonder, and to ponder the interplay between sound, perception, and emotion. Every note intricately woven together tells a story, a narrative interlaced with curiosity and intrigue. As you embark on this auditory journey, allow the sounds to transport you, drawing you deeper into the experience. Just like the intricate movements of a Ferris wheel, the Shepard's tone reminds us that beauty can be found in cycles, in the rhythms of life that ebb and flow in harmony with the sounds around us. Whether used to build excitement, create tension, or simply provide a captivating auditory backdrop, the Shepard's tone continues to inspire and provoke thought, inviting us to explore the boundless possibilities of sound. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, watching a video of someone speaking. As the person articulates words, you notice that their lips move in a particular way, but the sound that reaches your ears doesn't quite match what you see. You might hear "ba" while observing the speaker's lips form what looks like "ga." This surprising and captivating phenomenon is known as the McGurk Effect. To understand the McGurk Effect better, let's take a step back and explore how humans process speech. When we communicate, our brains rely on multiple sources of information, including what we hear and what we see. Our ears perceive sounds while our eyes pick up the visual cues from the speaker's lips and facial expressions. Typically, these two senses work harmoniously together to help us decipher what's being said. However, the McGurk effect demonstrates that when these sensory signals conflict, our brains may create a unique and sometimes unexpected outcome. The name McGurk Effect comes from a groundbreaking experiment conducted by psychologists Harry McGurk and John MacDonald in 1976. They showed that when participants watched a video in which a speaker said one syllable while the audio played another syllable, the viewers often reported hearing a third syllable altogether. For instance, if the audio said ba, but the lips formed ga, many people perceived a completely different sound, like da. This highlight of the brain's adaptability reveals how visual cues can dominate auditory ones in speech perception. Imagine for a moment how this might play out in real life. Picture yourself in a noisy cafe, trying to have a conversation with a friend. The laughter, clinking of dishes, and chatter around disrupt your audio senses. If your friend speaks softly, you might rely more on their lip movements to understand them better. If they said something that sounded like C, but their lips moved as if to form B, your brain could be tricked into believing you heard something entirely different. This captivating mix of visual and auditory confusion is a perfect illustration of the McGurk effect in action. Interestingly, the impact of the McGurk effect is not limited to just English speakers. Research shows that this phenomenon occurs across different languages and cultures, highlighting a fundamental aspect of how humans process speech. People from various backgrounds can experience the same conflicting audio-visual cues and reach similar perceptual conclusions. This universal characteristic offers insight into the remarkable adaptability of the human brain, suggesting that our perceptual systems are wired to prioritize certain types of information. While the McGurk effect is fascinating, it also has practical implications. For instance, speech therapists often use insights from this phenomenon to help individuals with speech and hearing difficulties. By understanding how visual information can enhance or contradict auditory signals, therapists can develop more effective communication strategies. Techniques such as improving lip-reading skills or using visual aids can be beneficial for those experiencing challenges in communication. Moreover, the McGurk effect encourages us to reflect on the significance of nonverbal communication. We may not always realize how much we rely on gestures and facial expressions to convey meaning. For example, consider how a simple smile or frown can completely change the interpretation of the words spoken. In an era dominated by digital communication, where the absence of visual cues is prevalent in texts or emails, it's crucial to remember the importance of these facets in face-to-face interactions. This perceptual phenomenon can also be observed in the world of entertainment. Think about watching a movie without sound. The visuals alone may provide a different message than the dialogue gives. A suspenseful scene without auditory cues might leave you feeling puzzled, as critical emotional undertones are often signaled through voice. This illustrates how crucial the combination of auditory and visual signals is for storytelling and how we create meaning from what we watch and hear. Artists and filmmakers often capitalize on the McGurk effect to create layers of meaning in their work. By deliberately manipulating audio and visuals, they can invoke specific reactions from audiences, compelling them to think critically about what they see and hear. The interweaving of these signals adds an extra dimension to narratives, engaging viewers in a deeper exploration of themes and emotions. In summary, the McGurk effect serves as a compelling reminder of the complexities of human perception. It showcases the intricate dance between visual and auditory information, and how our brains interpret conflicting signals and create a unique understanding of reality. Through this phenomenon, we can appreciate the beauty of communication, the creativity in storytelling, and the importance of being attentive not only to the words that are spoken, but also to the myriad of nonverbal cues that enrich our interactions. Understanding the McGurk effect adds depth to our appreciation of how we connect with one another, revealing the extraordinary mechanisms at play in our everyday experiences. Have you ever learned a new word or come across a particular concept only to suddenly see it everywhere around you? You might be noticing this intriguing experience known as the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon, or frequency illusion, where once something comes into your awareness, it feels as though it is popping up all around you. Imagine this scenario. You decide to buy a new car, perhaps a specific model you've always loved. The moment you drive it off the lot, you start to see this exact car everywhere. It feels like suddenly everyone has the same vehicle as you do. You can't help but notice how frequently it appears on the road, parked in driveways, and even featured in social media posts. It's as if the world has transformed into a parade of your new discovery. This phenomenon is not limited to cars. It can happen with any number of things, including ideas, trends, or even names. Perhaps you just came across a book by a new author who has caught your interest. After reading about them, it seems that their books are suddenly being recommended to you everywhere, from online forums to conversations with friends. What was once a background concept has now risen to the forefront of your attention. The Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon occurs largely due to the way our brains are wired. When you learn something new, your brain becomes hyper-aware of it, filtering information based on relevance. This selective attention essentially creates a form of confirmation bias, where you start to notice things that confirm your newly formed belief or interest, while ignoring the rest. It's a fascinating dance between awareness and perception, leading to a greater sense of connection with the world around you. Another relatable example involves a name. Have you ever met someone with a unique or uncommon name? After the introduction, you might find that you start hearing that name in other contexts, on television shows, or in news articles. It seems astonishing that something so rare suddenly appears so frequently in your daily life. You could find yourself pondering how many people share that name, or even discussing it with friends as if it has become a trending topic. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon is more than just an interesting observation. It explains how our cognitive processes shape our reality. Our brains constantly filter information, deciding what is important and worthy of focus. This ability enables us to navigate the complex world of stimuli we encounter daily. Think of it as a spotlight, illuminating specific aspects of your environment, helping you prioritize what you pay attention to. Moreover, the phenomenon ties into the broader process of learning and memory. As you encounter something new, the neural pathways in your brain become more defined and robust. Repeated exposure strengthens these connections, making it easier for you to recognize related concepts in the future. The more you engage with certain topics or ideas, the more relevant they become in your daily experiences. Beyond personal experiences, the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon can have cultural implications. Trends can seem to emerge out of nowhere, dominating conversations or social media, seemingly based on collective awareness. This can occur in fashion, technology, or even phrases that take over social conversations. Once you start noticing a specific trend, it feels like you are on the inside track, sharing in a common knowledge with others. Interestingly, many people might experience this effect in an educational context. After attending a lecture or reading a compelling article, concepts may begin to appear in textbooks, documentaries, and discussions with peers. This might create an enriching experience where knowledge feels connected and relevant, encouraging deeper exploration of subjects. Yet, while it may feel surprising to notice a sudden influx of familiar information, it can also provoke introspection. Why do certain subjects or ideas capture our interest at particular times? What does it tell us about our priorities, values, or even what we seek in the moment? The awareness brought forth by the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon can encourage you to explore these patterns in your life, leading to personal growth and understanding. Furthermore, the experience can foster a sense of community. When you share a newfound interest with others, you might find yourself engaging in lively discussions, discovering more about what is popular, and delving into topics that resonate with you and those around you. The shared awareness creates bonds that invite richer conversation and connection. In sum, the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon serves as a reminder of how perceptions shape our reality and the way we interact with the world. As you encounter new ideas or concepts and start observing them repeatedly, it becomes an invitation to explore, engage, and deepen your understanding. This captivating interplay between awareness and reality demonstrates the complexity of human cognition and the joy of discovering connections in our lives. So the next time you learn something new, take a moment to observe the world around you. You may find that what once seemed like an isolated idea is part of a broader tapestry of experiences waiting to be uncovered. Have you ever heard of the Ames illusion? This fascinating optical illusion will take you on a journey through the quirks of human perception, showcasing just how easily our minds can be tricked by our surroundings. The Ames room is not just any ordinary room. It is a cleverly designed space that appears rectangular, but in reality it is anything but. The unique construction of the Ames room leads to something extraordinary. It creates a distorted reality that alters the perception of size and scale. Imagine stepping into a room that feels like it defies the laws of physics. You might see two people standing at opposite ends. One appears to be towering over the other, a giant among mere mortals, while in truth, they are the same height. This amazing effect is achieved through angles and perspectives that challenge the very notions we hold about space and distance. The secrets of the Ames room lie in its design. The room is not a true rectangle. Instead, it has an irregular shape that plays tricks on your brain. The far corner of the room is taller than the near corner, creating a visual interpretation that makes objects in motion seem larger or smaller, depending on where they are in the room. When you stand at one end, your perspective shifts, and the person at the other end appears drastically different in size. Artists and scientists alike have been fascinated by this illusion. The Ames room was invented in the 1940s by American ophthalmologist Adelbert Ames, who sought to explore the limits of human perception. He demonstrated that our brains rely heavily on visual cues to interpret size. In a world filled with straight lines and predictable shapes, the Ames room disrupts those expectations. It forces us to confront the fact that what we see is not always what is real. Consider a scenario where a child stands at one end of the room, while an adult stands at the opposite end. The adult may appear to be several times larger than the child when viewed from that angle. How can this be? As you walk around the room, the size disparity vanishes, and the illusion dissolves. This moment provides insight into how the mind interprets visual information and the importance of context in our perception. The Ames room effect is not limited to just human figures. It can also be applied to objects. Imagine placing a small table in one corner and a large chair in the opposite corner. From the vantage point of the person standing in one spot, the table might look like a mere footstool while the chair seems to dominate the space. This manipulation of scale can lead to surprising and often comical illusions that challenge our understanding of everyday objects. To truly appreciate the Ames room, one must understand how the brain processes spatial relationships. Our perception is influenced by various factors, including light, shadows, and angles. Our brains work hard to create a three-dimensional understanding of the world around us, but when those elements are masked or altered, confusion can ensue. The Ames room is a perfect example of how our interpretation of reality can be skewed based on visual information. Visitors to an Ames room often find themselves laughing in disbelief, eager to take photos that capture the magic of the moment. This interactive experience draws people in, allowing them to experiment with their own perceptions. As they move from one corner to another, they witness the transformation of size firsthand. The delight of realizing the trick behind the illusion is both surprising and unforgettable. The Ames room has inspired countless exhibits in museums and science centers around the world, where curiosity and play converge. Young and old alike are enchanted by the shifting shapes and sizes, making this optical illusion a delightful experience for everyone. It serves as a reminder of how perception can be manipulated and the fascinating ways in which our minds can be amazed. While the Ames room is primarily an artistic and playful creation, its implications extend beyond just entertainment. Psychologists and neuroscientists study such illusions to better understand how the brain processes visual information and navigates our environments. The Ames room represents a small piece of the larger puzzle of human perception, a field that continues to evolve with technological advancements. In a world brimming with illusions, the Ames room invites us to question what we perceive. How many times have we trusted our eyes, only to find that our understanding was incomplete? Whether through art, science, or simply the joy of experiencing this remarkable illusion, the Ames room leaves us pondering the complexities of reality. It encourages us to explore the boundaries of our perceptions and embrace the wonders of illusion that life offers. In conclusion, understanding the Ames room illusion opens up a new world of fascination. It reveals the intricacy of human perception and the ways in which our brains construct reality. We live in a dynamic world, and each day we encounter situations that challenge our understanding. The Ames room serves as a playful reminder that what we see is not always an accurate reflection of the world. So the next time you find yourself questioning what you perceive, remember the wonders of the Ames room and the magic that lies within the intricacies of our minds. Have you ever looked at a seemingly simple image and found that it tricks your mind into seeing something that isn't really there? One fascinating example of this phenomenon is the Kanizsa Triangle, an optical illusion that plays with our perceptions in surprising ways. The Kanizsa Triangle was discovered by the Italian psychologist Gaetano Kanizsa in 1955. At first glance, you may see a white triangle that appears to be perfectly formed, sitting in a distinct position on the page. Yet, upon closer inspection, you will find that this triangle is not actually drawn. It doesn't exist. Instead, the triangle is created by the arrangement of 3 black circles, each with an angled wedge removed from their circumference, pointed toward the invisible triangle. The mind fills in the gaps, completing the shape and leading us to perceive that an actual triangle exists where there is none. This particular illusion reveals a lot about how our brains work. Our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world around us. When they come across incomplete information, they seek to fill in the blanks to create a coherent picture. In the case of the Kanizsa Triangle, the configuration of the circles and wedges provides enough context for our minds to construct the missing triangle. This phenomenon highlights how our visual perception is not just a passive reception of images. It's an active process of interpretation and organization. Consider how this illusion might affect your everyday life. You might have watched mystical shapes float by in the clouds, or seen hidden images within the branches of trees. These experiences illustrate how easily our minds can shape reality based on mere suggestions. Just like the Kanizsa Triangle, the world is filled with all sorts of optical illusions and ambiguous images that hinge on our perception. One intriguing aspect of the Kanizsa Triangle is that it emphasizes the concepts of figure and ground. Our brains are wired to distinguish between objects and their backgrounds, allowing us to navigate our environments effectively. In the case of the Kanizsa Triangle, the brain designates the white space of the perceived triangle as the figure, standing out against the darker circles around it. This distinction is essential as we constantly interpret vast amounts of visual information in our daily lives, deciding what to focus on and what to ignore. The Kanizsa Triangle is not only a captivating example of a visual illusion, but also a gate into the broader realm of perception. Our sensory experiences can be misleading, prompting us to question what we see. Consider the classic idea of optical illusions, where the brain might perceive movement in static images or find faces in abstract artworks. The world of visual perception leaves room for intrigue and curiosity. It's a reminder that our experiences can sometimes diverge from reality. Exploring the Kanizsa Triangle can also lead to deeper discussions about how cultures perceive art and design. Artists throughout history have experimented with shapes and colors, understanding that the arrangement of elements can evoke emotions or convey meaning. The structure behind the Kanizsa Triangle exemplifies that by artfully presenting visual cues, creators can manipulate perception to create engagement and provoke thoughts. Furthermore, the implications of the Kanizsa Triangle extend into disciplines like psychology, neuroscience, and even philosophy. Studies focused on visual perception continue to unveil layers about how our minds navigate complex stimuli. For instance, researchers have explored how these optical illusions can help us understand larger cognitive processes, such as how we perceive time, music, or even abstract ideas. As you ponder the nature of the Kanizsa Triangle, think beyond the illusion itself. The engagement of the mind not only enhances our understanding of visual phenomena, but also highlights how interlinked our perception is with our cognitive interpretations. Have you ever noticed an unusual pattern where shapes seem to emerge only to fade when you focus your gaze elsewhere? Such moments echo the interactions between what is real and what is interpreted, much like how the Kanizsa Triangle teases our perception to see a triangle that isn't there. This interplay can be extended to diverse aspects of life, including the way stories unfold and narratives take shape in our minds. In essence, the Kanizsa Triangle serves much more than a simple visual trick. It exemplifies a beautiful dance between perception and reality. Each time we encounter this optical illusion, we engage with mystery and discovery, prompting us to ask questions about how we interact with a world rich in ambiguity. Our curiosity remains a powerful tool, driving exploration into how we see things differently and revealing the incredible capabilities of the human mind. The next time you come across the Kanizsa Triangle, take a moment to appreciate not just the illusion, but the deeper insights into the nature of perception itself. In this exploration, we may uncover not only the secrets of visual phenomena, but also a greater understanding of ourselves as thinkers and observers of a beautifully intricate world. Choice blindness is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that reveals how our minds work in ways we may not fully understand. At its core, choice blindness refers to the surprising tendency of individuals to overlook discrepancies in their decisions once they have made them. This means that people often fail to acknowledge changes made to their original choices, even when those alterations are significant. Imagine being asked to make a choice between two similar items. For instance, suppose you are presented with two types of jam, one strawberry and the other raspberry. After tasting both, you express a preference for the strawberry jam. Now what if someone were to swap the jars, and when you are later given a spoonful of raspberry jam while being told it's strawberry, you might actually endorse it as your original choice? This is a classic example of choice blindness. The mind's ability to rationalize and justify decisions often overshadows the actual choice made. One notable study that demonstrates this phenomenon involved participants choosing between two different images of faces. After making their selection, researchers would sometimes swap the chosen face with the other one without informing the participant. Astonishingly, many participants would defend their selection even after the face was switched, claiming that they liked the one they originally chose, despite it being different from what they had selected. This raises intriguing questions about our self-awareness. How confident can we be about our preferences when our minds can so easily adjust to changes? It turns out that our memories and preferences may be less stable than we believe. In everyday life, we often think of ourselves as having clear, fixed preferences. However, the reality is that these preferences can be flexible and subject to reinterpretation based on context. Another interesting aspect of choice blindness is how it relates to the concept of confirmation bias. When we make a decision, we tend to seek information and experiences that reinforce that decision and ignore evidence that contradicts it. This bias can further enable choice blindness, as individuals may unconsciously alter their perceptions to stay aligned with what they have already chosen. It creates a kind of self-justifying narrative that justifies decisions made, regardless of their actual nature. Now, consider the implications of choice blindness in various settings. In marketing, for example, companies can leverage this phenomenon to promote products. If consumers have a positive experience with a brand, they may overlook negative aspects or conflicting information about that brand. This not only influences purchasing behavior, but can also encourage brand loyalty over time. As people justify their decisions, they become less critical of the brand, reinforcing their positive feelings toward it. Choice blindness may also play a role in social situations, particularly in relationship dynamics. For instance, when people reflect on their romantic choices or friendships, they might overlook red flags or problematic behaviors, attributing positive qualities to individuals instead. This can lead to a continued attachment, despite the presence of issues that might warrant reevaluation. Further still, choice blindness raises questions about accountability. If people can be so easily led to believe that something different is what they originally decided upon, to what extent can we hold them responsible for their choices? This has profound implications in areas such as behavioral economics, ethical decision-making, and even legal judgments, where the nature of choice can significantly impact outcomes. Interestingly, choice blindness has been examined in the context of political choices as well. Imagine voters being presented with policies or candidates that do not match their initial preferences. Research has shown that people might support policies they did not choose when they are presented with them after the fact, especially if they have been subtly framed in a positive light. This suggests that the context and presentation of information can alter perceptions and beliefs without individuals even realizing it. In conclusion, choice blindness is a powerful reminder of the complexities of human decision-making. It illustrates how our perceptions, preferences, and justifications can become malleable after choices have been made. By understanding this phenomenon, we can become more aware of our cognitive biases and how they shape our experiences. Whether in marketing, relationships, or everyday decisions, choice blindness demonstrates that our choices are not always as fixed as we believe, and that our intuition can sometimes lead us down unexpected paths. Engaging with these insights invites us to question our decisions more critically and to appreciate the intricate workings of the human mind. Imagine standing in front of a beautiful painting, where every detail seems perfectly crafted. Suddenly, you notice a curious phenomenon. One object appears larger or smaller based on its surroundings. This captivating effect is known as the Ebbinghaus Illusion, named after the German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, who first described it in the late 19th century. The Ebbinghaus illusion isn't just a trick. It reveals intricacies of our perception and how we interpret visual information. To understand this illusion, let's visualize two circles, both the same size. Imagine one circle surrounded by smaller circles and the other by larger circles. Even though both central circles are identical, the one surrounded by smaller circles seems larger, while the other surrounded by bigger circles appears smaller. This fascinating distortion occurs not because the circles themselves are actually changing size, but because our brains are processing their sizes relative to the context surrounding them. The human brain is designed to make quick judgments based on visual cues, often relying on context to assess size. This ability to interpret relative size is essential for navigating our environment, helping us make sense of objects and their spatial relationships. Picture yourself standing in a vast field. A distant mountain may look smaller than a flower in your hand, but in reality, the mountain is enormous. Our brains make these size comparisons automatically, and the Ebbinghaus Illusion exemplifies this innate tendency. But what happens in our brain during this perception shift? When we observe the central circle, our brain immediately processes the size of that circle relative to its surroundings. This figure-ground relationship engages various parts of our visual cortex, leading to the misjudgment of size. The surrounding circles act like an additional layer of information that influences our perception. It's as if our brains compare the foreground with the background, creating an optical interplay that can be both mesmerizing and puzzling. The Ebbinghaus Illusion isn't only a neat visual trick, it has implications in art, design, and even psychology. Artists often take advantage of this illusion to guide viewers' attention and create depth in their artwork. For example, one might place a vibrant burst of color within a larger, muted space, enhancing the perceived intensity of that central element. Designers of all kinds can employ this illusion to create visually striking graphics and engaging advertisements. One memorable application of the Ebbinghaus illusion is found in the design of educational materials. By utilizing this concept, instructors can highlight essential information by placing it in contexts that emphasize its significance. For instance, a central idea might appear larger in a visual aid that includes smaller, less important concepts around it, making it easier for learners to focus on what truly matters. This illusion also extends into realms beyond visual arts. In social psychology, researchers have explored how context alters perception and decision-making. Much like how surrounding circles can reshape our view of size, our judgments about people and circumstances can be similarly swayed by the context in which we encounter them. This fascinating interplay between perception and context opens up discussions about biases, stereotypes, and the ways we interpret complex social interactions. As you walk through life, take a moment to notice how you perceive size and shape in various contexts. Have you noticed how a small child next to an adult can make the adult seem larger than life? Or how a cozy room can feel more expansive with a few carefully chosen mirrors? These experiences exemplify the principles of the Ebbinghaus Illusion, reminding us that our perceptions often reflect the influences of our surroundings. Staring at optical illusions can be a delightful way to explore the boundaries of perception and reality. The Ebbinghaus Illusion, with its seemingly simple yet profound effect, prompts us to consider how our brains navigate the visual world. This explores broader themes of perception and reality, as we realize that what we see isn't always an accurate reflection of what exists. In closing, the Ebbinghaus Illusion serves as a compelling reminder of the complexity of human perception. It invites curiosity about the fascinating ways in which our environment shapes our understanding. So next time you find yourself observing shapes and sizes, remember the influence of context and appreciate the intricate dance between your perception and the world around you. With every glance, a new story unfolds, revealing a deeper understanding of how we perceive our vibrant, ever-changing visual landscape. The Troxler Effect is a fascinating phenomenon that reveals the intricacies of our visual perception. Imagine you are sitting in a quiet room, perhaps reading a book or gazing out of the window at a beautiful landscape. As your gaze fixates on a specific object, such as the pages of your book or a flower in the garden, you may not notice that the items around your focal point are gradually fading from your awareness. This experience is a result of the Troxler Effect, named after the Swiss physician Ignaz Troxler, who first described it in the early 19th century. In simple terms, the Troxler Effect occurs when our brain receives a sustained visual stimulus from a particular object or area in our field of vision. As we focus intently on that one spot, the details of objects in our peripheral vision begin to diminish. This fading happens because our brain prioritizes the processing of the focal stimulus, effectively tuning out the surrounding visual information that is not essential to our current task or interest. To grasp this concept further, consider the example of driving. When you focus on the road ahead, paying attention to the car directly in front of you, you may completely overlook smaller details on the side of the road, such as roadside signs or trees. Even though these objects are in your peripheral vision, they may become blurred or unnoticed until you shift your gaze away from the road. This is where the Troxler Effect comes into play, demonstrating how our attention can filter out distractions, allowing us to concentrate better on what is directly in front of us. The Troxler Effect is not limited to everyday experiences, but can also be observed in more elaborate visual situations. For instance, artists and photographers often leverage this phenomenon in their work. By creating a primary focal point in their composition, they can encourage viewers to engage deeply with the central theme of their piece, while the edges fade into a gentle blur. This artistic technique enhances the emotional impact, drawing viewers into the heart of the piece without the distraction of surrounding details. In the realm of science, the Troxler Effect holds significant importance for understanding human perception and attention. Researchers use this effect to explore how our visual system prioritizes information. Experiments involving this phenomenon have revealed that our brains are not merely passive observers. Rather, they actively filter out information that may not be relevant at any given time. This filtering process is essential for navigating complex environments, allowing us to remain focused and make sense of what we are experiencing. The Troxler Effect also gives insight into why distraction can be so challenging in our fast-paced world. With numerous stimuli vying for our attention, signals from our phones, chatter in a busy cafe, or vivid advertising, we often find it hard to concentrate on one thing for an extended period. The effect serves as a reminder of how our cognitive apparatus is designed to streamline our focus, but can sometimes lead to overlooked details in our environment. Another noteworthy example arises in the realm of visual arts and optical illusions. Some artists create pieces that play with our perception, taking advantage of the Troxler Effect to engage viewers. This can lead to compelling experiences where images seem to come alive or change when you concentrate on them. Optical illusions exploit this principle, where staring at a specific pattern can result in colors shifting or shapes warping, further emphasizing the intriguing complexities of how we see. Furthermore, the Troxler Effect invites us to reconsider how we engage with the world around us. In moments of deep reflection or contemplation, if we allow ourselves to be fully present with our thoughts, we might notice a decrease in awareness of our surroundings. This experience can foster a sense of tranquility, becoming a moment of calm amidst the chaos of daily life. By understanding the Troxler Effect, we can learn to harness our focus, to enhance our experiences, and create meaning in our interactions with the world. Even in everyday activities such as watching a movie, we can observe the Troxler Effect in action. As the plot unfolds on the screen, and we immerse ourselves in the story, peripheral details, like individuals walking across the theater or the texture of seats, fade into the background. Our cognitive energy is concentrated on understanding the narrative, exemplifying how the Troxler Effect shapes our interactions with art and entertainment. In conclusion, the Troxler Effect provides a unique perspective on how we process visual information and how our focus can shape our experiences. By understanding this phenomenon, we can become more aware of the subtle nuances of our perception and utilize our focus to either deepen our experience of a particular moment or allow ourselves to take in the broader picture around us. It reminds us of the delicate balance between attention and distraction, shaping our interaction with the captivating world we inhabit. So next time you find your gaze fixed on something intriguing, take a moment to appreciate the beauty of what may be fading from your periphery, knowing that your mind is hard at work, filtering through the noise to bring clarity to your experience. The Delboeuf Illusion is a fascinating optical phenomenon that illustrates how our perception of size can be dramatically altered by the context in which an object is placed. This illusion is named after the Belgian philosopher and psychologist Joseph Delboeuf, who first described it in the 19th century. The essence of this illusion lies in our tendency to judge the size of an object based not just on its inherent qualities, but also on the surrounding visual environment. Imagine a simple scenario. Two circles of the same size are presented to you. One of these circles is surrounded by a larger circle, while the other is encircled by a smaller one. To the untrained eye, The circle enclosed by the larger ambient circle appears smaller than the one surrounded by the smaller circle. This is the Delboeuf illusion in action. Despite both circles being of identical dimensions, our brains interpret the context of surrounding shapes to conclude that one is larger than the other. The mechanics behind this illusion tap into our visual processing system. Our brain doesn't merely focus on the size of the object in front of us. Instead, it makes comparisons with the visual cues around it. This is where the surrounding circles influence our assessment of size, creating a perception that can differ significantly from reality. For instance, if you were to measure both circles with a ruler, the results would reveal they are exactly the same size. However, the perception created by their surrounding circles leads to a visual discrepancy that baffles many. Such experiences are not uncommon in our daily lives. Have you ever noticed how a small plate looks more aesthetically pleasing when it is beside a larger one? Our perception of objects is often enhanced or diminished based on the company they keep. The Delboeuf illusion serves as a reminder of how easily our interpretation can be skewed by other visual stimuli, making us question the reliability of our own senses. This phenomenon also has intriguing implications in various fields. For artists, understanding the Delboeuf illusion can help create more impactful visual compositions. In design, whether it be graphic design or product branding, knowing how size perception works can mean the difference between a successful or poorly received project. Imagine showcasing a product that you want to appear larger. Clever use of surrounding elements could enhance its perceived size with just a few adjustments. In a scientific context, researchers have studied how and why illusions like the Delboeuf occur. Explorations into how kids perceive size compared to adults reveal interesting differences linked to developmental stages. Children may not experience this illusion as strongly as adults do, possibly due to their developing visual perception skills. This opens the door to understanding how our vision and cognitive processing evolve as we age. The Delboeuf illusion pushes the boundaries of our understanding about perception. Even in terms of spatial awareness, our brains are constantly attempting to make sense of the world around us. It raises questions about how we interpret our surroundings. What does it say about the intricate workings of our mind that we can be so easily misled by adjacent imagery? In the arts, the insights derived from understanding size perception through illusions like Delboeuf can also inspire creativity. Artists might employ contrasting sizes of shapes deliberately to create a sense of tension or balance within their work. Either by placing a small object against a sprawling backdrop, or by focusing attention on a subject with enlarging contours, artists can evoke emotions that alter the viewing experience. As we continue to dissect the nature of optical illusions, the Delboeuf illusion stands out not just for its visual trickery, but for its deeper implications about human perception. It challenges preconceptions and invites further examination of how environmental factors influence the cognitive judgments we make every day. In a broader sense, this illusion touches on the underlying complexity of human cognition and perception, raising implicit questions about how much of our reality is shaped by simultaneous contexts. So, the next time you encounter two similarly sized circles and notice a discrepancy in how they appear, remember the Delboeuf illusion and let it remind you of the intricate dance between perception and reality. This visual experience showcases how our brains can play tricks on us, illuminating the captivating world of optical illusions and the science that explores them. It simplifies the complex nature of how we interact with our visual environment and serves as an engaging entry point into the study of psychology, art, and our everyday lives. The Delboeuf illusion stands not just as a curious visual facade, but as a window into the ways we visually interpret the world, a reminder that sometimes what we see and how we perceive it can lead us to think beyond surface appearances. So keep this illusion in mind as you navigate the world of sights and shapes. The intricacies of perception are always at work, guiding how you experience the world in all its vibrant and puzzling glory. The Ponzo illusion is a fascinating example of how our brains process visual information. This illusion demonstrates that our perception of size is significantly influenced by the context in which an object is viewed. To better understand this phenomenon, let's delve into the details. Picture this scenario. You're looking at two horizontal lines that are drawn across a picture of railroad tracks converging in the distance. One line is placed nearer to the point where the tracks appear to meet, while the other is positioned closer to you. Even though both lines are the same length, the one closer to the converging tracks will appear longer to your eyes. This is not a trick of measurement or an optical error. It's a compelling demonstration of how our mind interprets visual cues. The context provided by the converging lines plays a critical role in this illusion. Our brains rely heavily on depth cues when determining size. We have learned to gauge the size of objects based on their relative position, and the converging lines suggest distance. The line that appears to be further away is interpreted as larger, simply because it is placed within a context that implies depth. This shows how the brain uses contextual information to make sense of the world. The Ponzo illusion was first demonstrated by Italian psychologist Mario Ponzo in 1911. Ponzo was studying the effects of perspective on visual perception. By cleverly arranging elements in his images, he effectively highlighted that our brains do not process images in a vacuum. Instead, they are influenced by surrounding details. Consider another example of the Ponzo illusion. Imagine an image of two circles, one situated at the top of a hill and the other at the bottom. The circle at the top of the hill appears larger than the one at the bottom, despite their actual size being identical. The brain interprets the top circle as larger due to its position in the landscape. This perception is so strong that it can influence our judgment, even when we know the circles are the same size. The implications of the Ponzo illusion extend beyond simple visual tricks. They reveal intriguing insights into how we perceive the world around us. This understanding can have applications in various fields, including design, art, and psychology. Artists often exploit these principles to create depth and dimensionality in their works, manipulating viewer perception to enhance the experience. In architecture and design, professionals might consider how placement and context can alter the way shapes and spaces are perceived. For instance, a designer might place an object in a specific way to draw attention or to create a sense of scale that influences how a space feels to its inhabitants. The Ponzo illusion has also led to numerous studies in cognitive psychology. Researchers continue to investigate the underlying mechanisms of perception and how context can bias our interpretation of size. They aim to uncover how much of our perception can be trusted and how much is reliant on suggestions from our environment. Interestingly, the Ponzo illusion is not limited to lines or circles. It can also be seen in real-life scenarios. Imagine two people of equal height standing at different distances from you. The person further away may appear shorter, even though you know both individuals are the same height. This is a practical application of the Ponzo principles in everyday life, reinforcing how we often misjudge size based on context. Another aspect of the Ponzo illusion worth mentioning is its relation to other visual phenomena, such as the Muller-Lyer Illusion. In the Muller-Lyer Illusion, two lines of the same length are adorned with arrows pointing in opposite directions. One line with outward-facing arrows appears longer than the other with inward-facing arrows, even though they are identical in length. Like the Ponzo illusion, this effect emphasizes our reliance on visual context rather than objective measurement. As with many illusions, the Ponzo illusion highlights the complex relationship between perception and reality. While our brains are incredibly adept at processing visual information quickly, they can also fall prey to errors in judgment. These illusions serve as a reminder of the intricacies of human perception, challenging our understanding of the world around us. In conclusion, the Ponzo illusion is more than just a playful trick of the eyes. It is a reflection of how our minds work to make sense of the environment. By understanding this illusion, we gain insight into the fascinating ways our perceptions are shaped by context. The next time you encounter this illusion, whether in art, design, or even in conversation, take a moment to appreciate the intricate workings of the human brain and its relationship to visual perception. The world is full of surprises, and sometimes what we see is not quite what it seems. Keep exploring, and you may find more wonders that challenge your understanding of reality. The Thatcher Effect is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that provides insight into how our brains process faces and identify familiar features. Imagine looking at an image of a person who appears most unusual. Everything is just slightly off. The eyes may be upside down, and the mouth may be inverted. This phenomenon becomes even more intriguing when we consider its impact on faces that are presented upside down. It can be remarkably challenging to notice these peculiarities at first glance. Over decades, psychological studies have revealed that human beings are exceptionally adept at recognizing faces. From early childhood, we learn to pick up subtle cues that tell us who someone is, or how they might be feeling just by observing their expressions. Indeed, recognizing faces is so ingrained in our experience that we generally do not think about the mechanics behind it. However, when a face is turned upside down, our brain's reliance on these cues gets disrupted, leading to the unique experience known as the Thatcher Effect. To illustrate this, imagine a familiar face, like a friend or a celebrity you admire. Now picture that face inverted. At first, it may look just as recognizable as it does when it's right side up. You might find yourself thinking, that looks like someone I know, but I'm not quite sure. It's only when you flip the face back to its normal orientation that you notice how the features have been altered. The mouth is turned upside down, and the eyes are oriented incorrectly. It's a striking difference that suddenly becomes apparent once the face is returned to its proper position. The science behind the Thatcher effect reveals significant insights into how we perceive faces. When faces are flipped upside down, we struggle to process them in the same holistic way that we do with right-side-up faces. Psychologists believe this is because our brains are wired to analyze faces by focusing on how features fit together as a whole entity. When that alignment is disturbed, as it is in the case of upside-down faces, our brain flips into a more analytical mode, causing us to perceive the individual components rather than the complete picture. Research has shown that when upside-down faces are manipulated, like in the case of the Thatcher effect, it becomes far more challenging to detect anomalies in facial features. One famous study demonstrated this by presenting participants with images of faces that had been altered in unusual ways. When these images were presented right side up, participants were quick to note alterations, but when turned upside down, they struggled to recognize anything was amiss. This indicates a remarkable disconnect between how we recognize faces normally and how that system falters when they are inverted. The implications of the Thatcher effect extend beyond simple psychology. They touch upon the fundamental ways we communicate and form social connections. Faces convey a wealth of information. Emotions, intentions, identities, much of which is lost when we cannot perceive the overall structure effectively. This has implications in various fields, from artificial intelligence, where understanding face recognition is key, to understanding deeper aspects of social interactions, where nonverbal cues play a crucial role. Interestingly, the Thatcher effect can lead to some deceptive illusions. Artists and creators often use this phenomenon to subvert our expectations of faces. With just slight alterations in orientation, they can surprise us and challenge our perceptual habits. Imagine looking at an artwork that initially appears to be a simple portrait, but shifts into an entirely different narrative when you view it from another angle. This exemplifies how the way we view the world can be deeply layered, inviting us to engage with it in new and unexpected ways. One can also explore the nature of recognition beyond the clinical and scientific lenses. The difficulty we have with recognizing upside-down faces becomes an invitation to reflect on our own experiences of connection. Why do certain faces resonate with us more than others? Could it be that our brain's facial recognition skills reflect our social preferences and biases? The Thatcher effect serves as a curious reminder of how our cognitive frameworks influence our experiences, urging us to pay attention to details we might normally overlook. In daily life, the implications of this phenomenon can lead to intriguing situations. Think about how people can appear different when seen in varying contexts. A friend you meet at work may give off a completely different vibe in a social gathering. The way we perceive those faces doesn't merely come down to aesthetics. It's about the context in which we see them and our own mindset while doing so. Through understanding the Thatcher effect, we come to appreciate the beauty and complexity of human faces and the ways they tell stories. Our ability to recognize faces enriches our interactions and deepens our connections with others, drawing us into a shared human experience that transcends language and culture. As you reflect on faces around you, consider the stories they hold and the multitude of emotions that are conveyed through each smile or frown. Ultimately, the journey of exploring the Thatcher effect allows us to dive deeper into the world of facial recognition, inviting us to marvel at the peculiarities of perception. With each encounter, we are reminded of the intricate workings of our mind that govern how we connect with one another. Dichotic listening is a fascinating experimental technique used in cognitive psychology to explore how our brains manage to focus on certain auditory stimuli while ignoring others. This process is largely representative of selective attention, which allows us to concentrate on one particular source of information even when other sounds are occurring simultaneously. The name dichotic essentially refers to the presentation of different sounds or messages in each ear. To understand this better, imagine putting on headphones. In one ear, you hear a story being told, and in the other ear, a completely different narrative is playing at the same time. The key objective of a dichotic listening experiment is to see how effectively a participant can listen to only one message while tuning out the other. Researchers have designed numerous studies using this method to probe how the brain processes language and sound. In a typical dichotic listening experiment, a participant may listen to two different messages, one in each ear. The participant is then asked to repeat or shadow what they hear in one ear, which requires the brain to filter out the conflicting information from the other ear. Findings from these experiments have revealed intriguing details about lateralization in the brain. Lateralization refers to the phenomenon where certain functions are more dominant in one hemisphere of the brain than the other. For example, research has shown that the left hemisphere is generally more involved in processing verbal information, while the right hemisphere has an enhanced ability to understand nonverbal sounds, such as music or environmental noises. To illustrate, if a participant is asked to shadow words from their right ear, they tend to perform better than when they listen to words from their left ear. This can be attributed to the way auditory information is processed in the brain. Information from the right ear is channeled directly to the left hemisphere, where language processing occurs, making it easier for the participant to understand and repeat what they hear. On the other hand, when the participant is asked to shadow a message from the left ear, they often struggle more. This is because information from the left ear is first sent to the right hemisphere before being relayed to the left, thereby introducing a delay that complicates the task. Dichotic listening experiments have also shed light on how attentional biases can influence our perception of sound. For instance, if one of the messages contains a loud noise or an emotional tone, participants may find themselves inadvertently listening to that message, even if they were instructed to focus on the other. This reflects how external factors can disrupt our ability to maintain selective attention. Moreover, these experiments are also crucial for understanding various clinical conditions. For example, dichotic listening tasks have been employed in research related to language disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and schizophrenia. Understanding how these conditions affect the ability to filter auditory information can lead to more effective interventions and therapies. In addition to speech and language, dichotic listening studies extend to areas such as music perception and even affective processing, which looks at how we perceive emotions through sound. The complexity of sound, ranging from pitch and rhythm to tempo and harmony, creates a rich tapestry of auditory experiences that our brains must decode, often at lightning speed. Moreover, certain studies have suggested that engaging in dichotic listening tasks can help improve cognitive skills. This idea opens up interesting avenues for research on how such tasks could be used in educational settings or cognitive training programs. If individuals can retrain their brains to better filter information, it could lead to enhanced focus and improved auditory processing abilities in everyday situations. Ultimately, dichotic listening remains a powerful tool in cognitive psychology, allowing researchers to dissect the intricate mechanics of how our brains manage to juggle multiple streams of auditory information. It reveals not only the efficiency and capabilities of our sensory systems, but also the powerful influence of cognitive processes, like attention and perception, that govern our interactions with the world around us. As we continue to explore this intriguing area of research, we gain a deeper understanding of our cognitive architecture, highlighting the remarkable adaptability and complexity of the human mind. The ability to selectively attend to certain auditory stimuli while disregarding others is a remarkable feat, revealing insights into how we communicate, interpret, and engage with the myriad sounds in our environment. By delving into dichotic listening, we uncover not just how we hear, but how we think, learn, and relate to one another in a world filled with auditory distractions. The ongoing exploration of these cognitive mechanisms promises to deepen our understanding of both the mind and our capacity for communication, creating a more informed future in psychology and neuroscience. From the simple act of listening to the elaborate dynamics of the brain's function, dichotic listening experiments continue to unravel the intricate dance of attention, perception, and cognitive processing that characterizes human experience. As researchers gather more data and develop new insights, the implications for both theory and practice in cognitive psychology will surely expand, revealing new dimensions of how we interact with sound, and each other. Anamorphic illusion is a fascinating aspect of visual perception that plays with the way we see the world. Imagine walking into a gallery and encountering a large painting that seems abstract or distorted at first glance. As you approach it from a specific angle, suddenly, the disarranged shapes come alive, transforming into a vivid scene or a realistic object. This captivating phenomenon is not just art. It's a unique way of engaging the mind and challenging our understanding of perspectives. The essence of anamorphic illusion lies in its dependence on the position of the observer. This means that to truly appreciate the artwork, you need to be in the right spot. Artists have utilized cylindrical, conical, and even mirror surfaces in their creations to produce this effect, adding depth and intrigue to their work. A perfect example can be seen in some of the earliest forms of anamorphic art, which date back to the 16th century, when artists like Hans Holbein the Younger crafted hidden images in their paintings. What may appear as an abstract image from one side could reveal a hidden message or figure when viewed from a certain angle. The science behind these illusions rests in the principles of geometry and perspective. When an artist creates an anamorphic image, they consider the shape of the viewing surface and apply particular mathematical techniques to determine how the components of their artwork will distort. To the casual observer, this could look like a jumble of colors and shapes, but for someone in the know or looking from the proper angle, everything falls into place, revealing the intended scene. One of the most captivating uses of anamorphic techniques can be found in street art. Many street artists have turned urban landscapes into interactive canvases, where pedestrians can find themselves standing amidst colossal creatures, distorted words, or magnificent landscapes that look completely different from various viewpoints. A common example is large murals on city streets, where the art plays with the ground's edges to create a three-dimensional appearance that can only be fully appreciated when viewed from a distance. Anamorphic illusions are not restricted to two-dimensional art. They have even entered the realm of sculpture. Take, for example, the incredible installations that are designed to look like something entirely different when seen from one specific angle. Artists sculpting in 3 dimensions can create pieces that look like abstract shapes from one viewpoint, only to reveal a recognizable or impactful figure from another. This clever twist on perception invites viewers to move around the piece, discovering its secrets as they shift positions. The fascination with these illusions does not stop at art. They have implications in fields as varied as architecture, design, and even marketing. Designers often employ these techniques to create striking visual displays that grab attention and communicate messages in a unique way. Imagine walking down a busy street and encountering a billboard that looks like a vibrant 3D sculpture from your angle. It draws you in, compelling you to stop and engage, creating a memorable experience. Furthermore, the brain plays a crucial role in processing these illusions. It interprets visual information based on context, memory, and previous experiences. This means that when presented with an anamorphic illusion, your brain must work harder to decipher the image and understand what it represents. The magic often lies in this cognitive engagement, as viewers not only analyze what they see, but also immerse themselves in the experience of discovery. As technology continues to advance, the potential for anamorphic illusion expands even further. Virtual reality and augmented reality applications provide new avenues for creating these mind-bending experiences. Users can engage with environments that change based on their movements and perspective, leading to an unprecedented level of interaction with visual narratives. Imagine donning a VR headset and exploring a digitally constructed world, where elements morph and transform, revealing new layers and stories as you move through it. Exploring anamorphic illusions reveals how much our perception is shaped by angles and context. It invites us to rethink the way we view our surroundings and encourages curiosity and exploration. The next time you face a seemingly distorted image or sculpture, remember that the true beauty often lies just a few steps away, waiting to be revealed to those willing to embrace the angle of discovery. In wrapping up, consider the intrigue of your own perspective on everyday objects and how our interpretations shift based on vantage points. Anamorphic illusions serve as a reminder that much of what we see may not be the whole story. As you navigate through your own visual experiences, remember that each shift in position can bring forth not just a different view, but an entirely new narrative waiting to unfold. Imagine holding a flat image in front of you, one that at first glance appears to be just a simple pattern, or perhaps a vibrant design. But if you look closely, something remarkable is waiting to reveal itself. This is the magic of stereogram perception, specifically autostereograms, which can transform two-dimensional images into three-dimensional scenes. To create an autostereogram, special patterns and colors are used in such a way that, when viewed in a particular manner, your eyes and brain can interpret depth. The brain relies on the small differences in the images that each eye sees to perceive depth. While we often take this ability for granted, it echoes back to how we evolved to understand our surroundings. Understanding how to perceive these hidden images might seem a bit tricky at first. The fundamental technique requires you to relax your gaze. Instead of staring directly at the picture, you allow your eyes to diverge slightly. This slight adjustment is akin to focusing on something far away, producing an effect that allows your brain to marry the visual information from both eyes into a coherent three-dimensional object. Let's take a moment to visualize this process. Imagine you're looking at a stereogram comprised of numerous repeating patterns and colors, perhaps dots or waves. Your initial view might seem chaotic or meaningless, a series of colors merging into an abstract image. However, if you soften your focus and allow your eyes to shift naturally, slowly, then suddenly, the depth will materialize. Yes, there it is. A 3D shape, potentially a landscape or an object, emerges from the seemingly flat backdrop. This illusion can bring a rush of excitement, invoking a sense of wonder as your perception shifts and expands. In this way, autostereograms engage several fascinating concepts related to vision. They connect the fields of art and science, revealing how our brains interpret visual signals and how perception can be manipulated artistically. Many artists and graphic designers enjoy creating such images because they blend creativity with principles of optics. Did you know that the first autostereograms gained popularity in the late 20th century? It was during the 1990s that these intriguing images made a significant splash, captivating the imaginations of people globally. Books filled with these hidden wonders became bestsellers overnight, and enthusiasts reported hours of enjoyment from the unique experience of uncovering diverse 3D shapes. Interestingly, the methods behind the creation of these images exploit a phenomenon known as binocular disparity. This term refers to the slight difference in perspective between our two eyes, which is vital for depth perception. Photographers and digital artists familiarize themselves with this concept to create immersive experiences that utilize all aspects of vision. As you explore these delightful 3D artworks, you're participating in this wondrous intersection of visual science and creativity. Beyond mere entertainment, engaging with autostereograms can contribute to visual skills improvement. The practice of adjusting your focus encourages better eye coordination. As time goes on, many find it easier to perceive subtle shifts in depth in everyday life. This can enhance how one interacts with the world, making it a fascinating tool for both children and adults. To maximize your experience with autostereograms, it might help to experiment with varying lighting conditions. Soft, diffused light can aid in relaxing your eyes, whereas bright lights might generate glare, making it challenging to engage with the hidden imagery. Some people even find that using these images as part of an art display provides entertainment and sparks conversation among viewers. While exploring different stereograms, consider the stories they might depict. Each image tells a unique narrative, often invoking a sense of depth and dimension that reflects ideas, emotions, or themes. You might see a fantastical creature, an underwater scene with fish swimming among corals, or stunning mountain landscapes, all emerging from the chaotic 2D patterns. As you navigate through this captivating world of perception, take your time. Dwell a little longer on each image until it unveils itself. Allow your imagination to intertwine with the visual treat, inviting in a spectrum of adventures and explorations. This engagement is what makes the experience worthwhile and truly enriching. As we reflect on this extraordinary experience, remember that our vision is just one sense among many, each contributing to the rich tapestry of human experience. Stereograms, along with their captivating technique, remind us how extraordinary our perception is, shedding light on the intricate dance between art, science, and the mind's wonder. Whether you're sharing your enthusiasm with friends or enjoying them to yourself, these images provide an opportunity to pause and reflect on the magic that surrounds us, concealed in the simplest of patterns yet promising complexity and depth. The Wason selection task is a fascinating logical puzzle that illustrates how people think and make decisions when faced with evidence. It was developed by British psychologist Peter Wason in the 1960s and has since become a classic in the study of cognitive psychology and reasoning processes. The task presents participants with a simple scenario that prompts them to test a rule. Imagine you are looking at 4 cards placed in front of you. Each card has a number on one side and a color on the other. For example, you might see a card with the number 2, a card with the number 3, a red card, and a brown card. The rule you need to verify states: if a card shows an even number on one side, then its reverse side must be red. Your task is to determine which cards you need to turn over to test whether this rule holds true. It may seem straightforward, but this puzzle reveals interesting aspects of human reasoning that can illuminate how confirmation bias shapes our thought processes. Many people initially think that they need to turn over the 2 and the red card to test the rule. They want to confirm that the even number has a red backside. This instinct reflects a common tendency to seek out evidence that supports what we already believe. However, the critical card to flip is actually the brown card. By checking the brown card, you can determine if it has an even number on the other side. If it does, the rule is violated, and therefore the original statement is not true. This outcome highlights a critical observation about our reasoning. Instead of simply looking to confirm an existing belief, effective reasoning requires us to actively seek potential disconfirming evidence. The tendency to focus on information that supports our views rather than challenging them is known as confirmation bias. In many situations, this bias leads us to make erroneous conclusions and to overlook important evidence. The Wason selection task also sheds light on how we process information. It emphasizes that human reasoning is not always logical. It can be influenced by context, assumptions, and prior knowledge. For example, if someone has previously encountered similar situations where the even number implied a specific color, they may be more likely to assume this rule is always true without rigorous investigation. Additionally, the Wason selection task can be viewed in the realm of everyday decision-making. Think about circumstances where you might operate on assumptions. For instance, when deciding whether to invest in a stock, you might seek positive reports and success stories while ignoring negative feedback. This is a trait commonly seen in various fields, from business to relationships, where we gravitate toward information that reinforces our pre-existing opinions or experiences. Understanding the implications of the Wason selection task helps us appreciate how reasoning can be improved. By consciously challenging ourselves to explore both confirmatory and disconfirmatory evidence, we can build a more comprehensive perspective. Asking questions and approaching situations with a critical eye can lead to a richer understanding of the world around us. Moreover, the Wason selection task has inspired discussions about education and critical thinking. By fostering environments where questioning is encouraged and supported, educators can help learners cultivate the skills necessary to analyze arguments logically. This can foster more critical approaches to information sources and improve decision-making abilities in various aspects of life. In summary, the Wason selection task is not just a simple logical puzzle. It serves as a powerful example of how human cognition works. It illustrates how confirmation bias can cloud our judgment and makes us aware of the importance of actively seeking out challenging evidence. This knowledge can empower us to refine our reasoning processes and develop critical thinking skills that are essential in an increasingly complex world. Whether we are interpreting numbers and colors or making decisions based on what we believe to be true, embracing a broader view can help us navigate uncertainty with insight and clarity. So the next time you face a puzzle or a decision, consider what cards you need to turn over, and ask yourself, am I looking at the whole picture? Imagine walking through a quiet forest and suddenly spotting what looks like a face in the bark of a tree. Or perhaps you're gazing at the clouds and can't help but see a figure that resembles a dragon soaring across the sky. This intriguing experience has a name: Pareidolia. Pareidolia is a fascinating psychological phenomenon where the human brain instinctively perceives familiar patterns, especially faces, in random or inanimate objects. This tendency is a product of our brain's remarkable ability to recognize patterns, an adaptation that has served us well throughout evolution. Being able to identify faces quickly has been crucial for social interaction and survival, helping our ancestors recognize friends, foes, or potential mates. One of the most captivating aspects of pareidolia is how prevalent it is in our daily lives. For instance, think about your breakfast toast. You might find a slice that has developed a curious brown mark, and suddenly, it resembles a smiling face. Many people delight in capturing these moments, sharing images of their toast with friends, or seeing artistic renditions of faces in everyday objects. Have you ever looked at a cloud and spotted a shape that evoked a memory or a feeling? Maybe a fluffy cloud reminded you of a beloved pet or a whimsical creature from a fairy tale. Cloud gazing is a universal pastime, where children and adults alike let their imaginations run wild. This aspect of pareidolia reveals the deep connection between our brain's interpretative capabilities and our emotional responses. Pareidolia isn't limited to nature, either. Human-made objects often serve as canvases for this phenomenon. Take, for example, the famous image of a face on Mars. The so-called face on Mars captured headlines and sparked imaginations, as many people speculated about potential life on the planet. In reality, this curious formation is simply a unique arrangement of rock and shadow. Nonetheless, it signifies how our minds yearn to find familiar shapes, even in the most alien landscapes. Art is another domain where pareidolia thrives. Artists have been known to exploit this psychological quirk, creating works that encourage viewers to find faces or patterns hidden within their pieces. Some abstract art pieces feature splashes of color or random shapes that, upon closer inspection, reveal a face or a figure. This interaction not only captivates viewers, but also allows them to engage more deeply with the artwork, drawing personal interpretations and connections. In our fast-paced digital world, pareidolia extends into technology as well. Think of the emojis and emoticons people use in text messages. A simple smiley face can evoke a wide range of emotions and reactions. Additionally, face detection algorithms in smartphones utilize the same principles behind pareidolia to recognize and categorize faces in photographs. While these programs are designed to enhance our experience, they mirror our innate tendency to seek out and recognize faces everywhere. The phenomenon can be linked to other psychological concepts like apophenia, which involves seeing connections and meanings in random data. While pareidolia specifically pertains to recognizing familiar shapes, particularly faces, apophenia encompasses a broader scope, such as seeing patterns in stock market trends or attributing significance to coincidence. Both reflect our inherent desire to find meaning and order in a seemingly chaotic world. Interestingly, research has shown that this tendency can sometimes lead to misconceptions. For instance, many people claim to have encountered supernatural beings or spirits when interpreting pareidolic images. Shadows, or random formations, can be perceived as ghostly figures due to our natural inclination to seek out faces. This interpretation can lead to a fascinating mix of belief and skepticism in various cultures, showcasing how pareidolia intersects with folklore and mythology. Diving deeper into the science behind pareidolia, it all begins in the brain. The fusiform gyrus, often referred to as the fusiform face area, is crucial for facial recognition. This brain region becomes particularly active when we see faces, even when they aren't present. This remarkable ability illustrates the brain's remarkable efficiency in processing visual information and its predisposition to prioritize face detection. Moreover, pareidolia plays a role in our artistic endeavors and creativity. Writers, musicians, and visual artists often tap into this phenomenon, using it to spark inspiration for their creations. The connections that the mind makes, drawing from our experiences and interpretations, can result in unique and powerful forms of expression. Additionally, the phenomenon serves as a reminder of the beautiful complexity of human perception. It highlights how our brain not only processes information, but also seeks significance in the world around us. This synesthetic understanding bridges our senses, emotions, and thoughts, shaping our daily interactions and experiences. As you navigate through life, pay attention to the details surrounding you. Look for faces in unexpected places, a rock formation, a facade of a building, or even the designs of your wallpaper. Embrace this wondrous phenomenon that not only reveals the quirks of the human mind, but also invites wonder and creativity into everyday moments. Next time you find a smile where you least expect it, cherish that connection between imagination and reality, for it is a glimpse into the enchantment of our mental landscapes. Imagine a simple cube, a box filled with vivid color and lights. Now picture a ball inside that box. As the box moves left to right, you notice that the ball seems to shift its position too. This is known as the ball-in-a-box illusion. It's a fascinating visual phenomenon that reveals how our brain interprets movement and depth in our surroundings. The principle behind this illusion is rooted in motion parallax, which is a depth cue that occurs when we move through our environment. As we change our position, objects that are closer to us appear to move faster than those that are farther away. This is because our eyes perceive differences in the apparent motion of nearby and distant objects. So, in the case of the ball inside the box, as you move, the ball seems to shift direction, creating a captivating effect that tricks our brain into perceiving it differently than it actually is. This illusion plays a significant role in our daily lives. Think about how, when you drive down a road, nearby trees zoom past quickly while the mountains in the distance seem to move much more slowly. This is motion parallax at work, providing vital information about the distances of things around us. Our brains use these visual cues to navigate and understand our space. Now, back to our box and ball. As the box moves, it also carries with it different angles and shapes, giving our brains even more information to work with. The combination of various movement cues makes the illusion quite powerful. It's as if everything inside the box dances to the rhythm of the box's movements, creating an engaging spectacle that invites you to observe closely. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine you are inspecting different boxes, each containing a sphere. One box moves from left to right, while another stays still, both filled with colors and designs. The ball in the moving box will appear to shift wildly, bending the perception of where it actually is. In contrast, the ball in the stationary box would seem stable, as the surrounding objects blur into motion around it. This contrast highlights the importance of motion, along with how it can alter our perception dramatically. This illusion is not merely an entertaining visual trick. It has deep implications in fields like psychology, art, and even virtual reality. Artists often play with motion parallax to create immersive experiences that engage the viewer's senses. By strategically positioning elements in a painting or installation, artists can evoke feelings of depth and space, drawing the observer into an experience that feels almost three-dimensional. In the realm of virtual reality, understanding how motion parallax works is crucial. Designers and developers create environments that need to feel realistic. By allowing users to look around and see how objects move relative to their position, they can create a sense of presence that feels genuine. The ball-in-a-box illusion serves as a reminder of how our brains process this information and why it's important to consider when crafting immersive experiences. Even in the realm of technology, this illusion can guide developments in robotics and artificial intelligence. Understanding how we perceive motion helps engineers create robots that can navigate complex environments. By programming machines to understand how objects move based on their position, we can enhance their ability to interact with the world in a fluid and seamless manner. The fascinating thing about the ball-in-a-box illusion is that it challenges our perceptions. It teaches us that what we see is not always what exists. Our brains are wired to interpret signals based on our experiences and the context of what we observe. This illusion asks us to question how reliable our perceptions are. Consider this. When you walk through a foggy day, your sense of depth changes. Objects that are nearby appear more defined, while those farther away blur into obscurity. This can alter your awareness of the space around you. Just like the ball-in-a-box illusion, it demonstrates how our perceptions shift based on context and motion. Next time you find yourself looking at an object, remember that your perspective is influenced by more than just what your eyes see. The world is filled with dynamic sequences constantly shifting our perceptions. Exploring the intricacies of how and why we perceive movement can encourage a deeper appreciation of life's visual and spatial wonders. Ultimately, the ball-in-a-box illusion is not just about seeing. It's about experiencing the world around us in a captivating way. It reminds us of the countless ways our brains interpret movement and space, transforming simple geometric forms into profound experiences. So let your imagination dance inside that colorful box and explore the captivating realm of perception, where every movement adds depth to the story that unfolds before your eyes. The hollow face illusion is a fascinating phenomenon that highlights the complexities of human perception. At first glance, one might see an ordinary face staring back, but as your gaze lingers, something intriguing occurs. The features seem to shift, and what you once believed was a convex face morphs into a hollow one. This curious visual trick invites us to explore the intricacies of our brain and how it processes visual information. Imagine walking through an art gallery filled with various sculptures. You approach a piece that represents a human face, crafted in a way that makes it appear as though it is protruding outward from the wall. As you walk around the piece, you observe the gentle curves of the nose, the delicate arch of the brow, and the subtle indentations that suggest depth. However, what if the piece were actually concave, like the shape of an empty bowl? The hollow face illusion demonstrates just that. Our brains are wired to interpret faces using certain cues and expectations. When we see a face, we expect the features to project outward, creating a sense of liveliness and engagement. The moment we encounter a hollow face, our brains instinctively fill in the gaps based on our past experiences and knowledge of what a face should look like. This is where the illusion takes hold. Our brain's desire to impose order on visual chaos leads to a complete inversion of reality. Consider the experience of being in a dimly lit room where the shadows play tricks on your eyes. As you stare at a darkened figure, the contours may seem to shift. The features you think you see flicker as your brain seeks to make sense of the sparse light. Similarly, the hollow face illusion operates on these principles. Even when the face is hollow and drawn backward, our perception clings to the familiar, projecting confidence and familiarity onto it. Art has long exploited this phenomenon. Artists and sculptors have created hollow faces that deceive the observer. A popular example is the works of famous contemporaries, like Bruce Nauman, or even historical art movements that played with shadow and form. When critics and spectators marvel at these innovative pieces, they are not just admiring the skill of the artist, but also delving into the boundless capacity of the human mind to interpret and misinterpret visual stimuli. To further understand this illusion, let's delve a little deeper into the science behind it. When light hits an object, it creates patterns that our eyes detect and send to the brain. However, the brain must interpret these patterns based on previous knowledge and context. The brain's interpretation is so strong that it can sometimes disregard stark evidence to the contrary. This is what allows a hollow object to appear convex. You might recall encountering this idea in different contexts. Picture a video game where characters come to life through digital modeling. The elements of light, shadow, and perspective play critical roles in making characters appear three-dimensional. Just as in real life, the interplay of these visual details tricks your brain into seeing depth, even when it may not exist. The hollow face illusion also poses intriguing questions in the realms of psychology and neuroscience. Why do we so readily accept the flawed representation of reality? What does this say about our understanding of perception? Researchers have dedicated significant time to studying illusions like this, providing insights into how our brain forms decisions about visual information. Another interesting aspect to consider is the implications of the hollow face illusion in our daily lives. We constantly make quick judgments based on appearances, from recognizing someone in passing to assessing the mood of a person we've just met. However, just as the hollow face can mislead us visually, the assumptions we make about people can also be built on incomplete information. To illustrate this further, consider how first impressions often stem from very limited visual cues. When we meet someone, we analyze their facial expressions, body language, and even their clothing. Yet what we perceive isn't always the truth. Just like the illusion of the hollow face, our assessments can be inaccurate. Underneath a nervous smile or confident facade might lie a fear or concern that isn't visible from the outside. This suggests that, while our visual perception can craft illusions, our interpersonal interactions often require us to look beyond the surface. Whether recognizing the complexity of relationships or deciphering the meaning behind a person's expression, we are encouraged to dig deeper than our initial impressions. In conclusion, the hollow face illusion is a captivating reminder of the depths of human perception. It showcases how easily our brains can misinterpret visual stimuli, transforming hollow into convex through mere suggestion. By exploring the illusion, we unveil not only the intricacies of visual processing, but also the nuances of interpretation that permeate our everyday encounters. As you ponder this fascinating illusion, consider how our perceptions shape not just our understanding of art, but our relationships and interactions within the world around us. The next time you encounter a hollow face, take a moment to appreciate the remarkable power of your brain and the wonders of perception. The Phi Phenomenon is a fascinating optical illusion that reveals how our brain processes visual information. This phenomenon allows us to perceive motion where there is none, simply by viewing a series of still images in quick succession. It is a remarkable demonstration of the brain's ability to create a coherent visual experience from discrete images, leading us to believe that we are witnessing fluid motion. Imagine watching a flipbook, where a sequence of drawings comes to life with each turn of the page. Each image is slightly different, and as you flip through them quickly, the characters seem to move. This effect happens not only in flipbooks, but also in various forms of art and media, such as animation and cinema. The Phi Phenomenon is a core principle behind the way animations are designed and how films convey action and movement. To deepen your understanding, let's consider how the Phi Phenomenon applies in everyday life. Picture the brightly lit signs on a marquee at a theater or a sports event. These signs often display messages using a series of illuminated bulbs that turn on and off sequentially. When you see the lights flicker on and off quickly enough, your mind fills in the gaps, perceiving a smooth and continuous flow of movement instead of discrete flashes of light. This uncanny ability of our perception is captured by the term apparent motion. One classic example of the Phi phenomenon can be found in the realm of film. When filmmakers capture a sequence of images and play them back at a specific frame rate, usually around 24 frames per second, the brain interprets these rapid images as continuous motion. This is why films can transport you into a world of action, drama, and adventure, as your mind is tricked into interpreting static frames as dynamic sequences. Additionally, the Phi phenomenon is not just limited to visual arts, but also extends into the world of dance and performance. When dancers move in synchrony, and lights are used to accentuate their motions, audiences can perceive movement patterns and fluidity, even when the individual elements are distinct and separated. A well-choreographed routine, combined with strategic lighting, can create the illusion of seamless motion, captivating viewers and drawing them into the performance. Artistic installations also utilize the Phi phenomenon to provoke thought and create experiences that captivate audiences. Interactive art pieces might employ a series of rotating panels or lights that play with timing and sequences, enticing viewers to engage with the illusion of movement. The magic happens when observers watch these elements move, and their brains work to connect the dots, allowing them to perceive fluid motion. Even in digital experiences, the Phi phenomenon plays a significant role. Video games and interactive simulations rely heavily on this principle. The graphics in these games involve countless frames that, when displayed rapidly, create a lifelike experience of movement. As players navigate through virtual worlds, they rely on this illusion to immerse themselves fully in the game, enhancing their engagement and enjoyment. Moreover, our understanding of the Phi phenomenon can also extend into the field of psychology and neuroscience. Researchers examine how our brains decipher visual information and how perception works in conjunction with cognitive processes. The ability to perceive motion is essential for navigating our surroundings, recognizing objects in motion, and interpreting actions. The study of these processes not only sheds light on how we perceive the world, but also uncovers the complexities of human cognition. In summary, the Phi phenomenon is an intriguing example of how our perception shapes our understanding of motion and movement. It has wide-ranging applications in art, film, performance, and digital media, allowing us to experience a rich tapestry of visual stories. Whether it's the flickering of lights, the rapid sequence of images in a film, or the graceful movements of dancers on a stage, the ability of our brains to create motion from stillness is nothing short of magical. By embracing this phenomenon, we explore the depths of perception and the creative worlds that arise from it, inviting us to appreciate the beauty of visual illusion and the power of our imagination. Imagine a curious object that defies the laws of geometry, puzzling the mind with its peculiar and perplexing form. This is the Impossible Trident, also known as a blivet. It is an intriguing figure that appears to be both a two-pronged fork and a three-pronged fork at the same time. This enigmatic object has captivated the imagination of artists, mathematicians, and enthusiasts for decades. At first glance, the Impossible Trident presents itself in a way that seems simple enough. With its three cylindrical prongs emerging from a common base, one might assume it is a straightforward design. However, upon closer inspection, things start to get strange. The prongs twist and turn in such a fashion that they simultaneously suggest both three distinct forks and just two prongs. This mysterious duality leaves viewers scratching their heads, leading them into a cognitive labyrinth where perception goes awry. The allure of the Impossible Trident lies in its ability to challenge human perception and understanding. It is a brilliant example of an impossible object, a three-dimensional figure that cannot exist in real-world space. Artists and designers often exploit these kinds of figures for optical illusions, plays on perspective, and other visual tricks. The Impossible Trident invites people to ponder the limitations of our perception and how our brains interpret what we see. The origins of the Impossible Trident can be traced back to the mind of artist and psychologist William Frederick F.P. Bragg. In the early 20th century, he began creating intricate drawings that explored the world of impossible shapes. His intention was to highlight how our visual perception can be deceived. The Impossible Trident became one of his most iconic creations, along with other fascinating shapes that have captured public interest. The implications of the Impossible Trident extend beyond just artistic expression. They also touch on mathematics and the philosophy of perception. The nature of reality is a topic that has been discussed for centuries, and objects like the blivet point toward an important idea. What we perceive is not always the complete truth. Our perception is a complex interplay of sensory input, previous knowledge, and cognitive processing. Consider how artists use this principle in their works. Take the famous paintings of M.C. Escher, for instance. He mastered the art of illustrating impossible constructions, playing with dimensions and perspectives in a way that sparks wonder and curiosity. The Impossible Trident falls into this tradition, inviting us to question the norms of geometry and to look at shapes and forms in a new light. When you look at the Impossible Trident, you may notice that the prongs are designed in such a way that they seem to connect and intersect, forming a shape that cannot be replicated in reality. It evokes a sense of whimsicality, blurring the line between imagination and reality. This characteristic has made it a popular subject for logos, branding, and advertising, referring to the quirky nature and the idea of breaking conventions. Imagine encountering this object in a curious little art gallery, or a quirky shop filled with optical illusions. As you stand before the Impossible Trident, you can feel a sense of delight and disbelief. Your eyes dart around, attempting to reconcile the conflicting perspectives presented before you. It's this very feeling that expands the imagination, igniting thoughts about the nature of creativity and the flexibility of our thinking. The Impossible Trident also provides an excellent talking point for discussions about perception and optical illusions. Think about how our minds can be so easily tricked. Consider other famous optical illusions, like the famous young woman-old woman image, which can shift depending on how you view it. Just like the Impossible Trident, these illusions remind us that our perceptions can be subjective, influenced by countless factors, including light, angle, and context. Art and science often intersect in wonderful ways through the exploration of concepts like these. Mathematical principles can often be found at the foundation of artistic creativity, with symmetry, geometry, and complex shapes playing a significant role in both fields. The Impossible Trident serves as a bridge between these worlds, highlighting how art can embody abstract, mathematical theories while also sparking intuition and creativity. In a broader sense, the journey of understanding objects like the Impossible Trident encourages us to embrace curiosity and imagination. It inspires us to question the boundaries of what we know, to seek deeper meaning in the everyday, and to allow for the possibility that there is much more to discover than what we perceive at first glance. Engaging with paradoxes invites self-reflection and a journey into the unknown. The Impossible Trident serves as a reminder to look beyond the surface, to explore the complexity of sight and thought, and to appreciate the wonder of our cognitive capabilities. So next time you encounter the Impossible Trident, take a moment. Observe its enchanting shape, let your mind wander, and allow it to inspire you to explore other perceivable mysteries in the world around you. Embrace that feeling of wonder, questioning not just the tangible forms before you, but the very essence of perception and reality. Let the impossible be possible in your thoughts and imagination, for it is there where creativity truly thrives. Imagine standing in a crowded room, surrounded by people you love, when a sudden and intense moment occurs. It could be the birth of a child, a wedding celebration, or even a shocking event like an accident. The noise around you might fade into the background, and suddenly, everything becomes clearer. This experience is often referred to as a flashbulb memory, a term that captures the essence of how we remember significant life events in vivid detail. Flashbulb memories are unique in that they are not just ordinary recollections. Instead, they are the snapshots of our minds, like a photograph taken in an instant. The brain seems to record these memories with a high degree of clarity and emotional intensity. You might remember every detail, the scent of the flowers, the sound of laughter, the expressions on faces, and even the temperature of the air. These moments feel engraved in our minds, and when we recall them, they often bring back the same feelings we experienced during that event. The concept of flashbulb memories was first introduced by psychologist Ulrich Neisser in the 1970s after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. Many people could recall not just the event itself, but the context in which they heard the news. They remembered where they were, what they were doing, and how they felt. This vivid recollection raised questions about how the brain processes emotionally charged memories. The emotional weight of a flashbulb memory plays a central role in its formation. When something significant happens, your body undergoes a stress response. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood the bloodstream, heightening your senses and making you more attentive. This physiological reaction helps solidify memories, essentially turning them into the mental equivalent of a high-definition video clip. Consider a time when you received unexpected news. Perhaps it was an event that changed your life forever, such as a promotion or the loss of a loved one. You might remember the exact moment when you heard the news. Some people describe these moments as if they were watching a movie unfold. The reactions of those around you, the environment, and even the small details, like the colors and sounds, become deeply embedded in your memory. Interestingly, while flashbulb memories feel incredibly accurate, research has shown that they are not immune to distortion. Over time, the details may fade or change, much like a photograph that loses its clarity. People often find that their recollections differ, and conversations with others who shared the same experience may reveal discrepancies. This phenomenon raises intriguing questions about the reliability of our memories and how they transform over time. Think about the shared stories you've heard about life-changing events. When friends recount their experiences of a shared holiday or a significant incident, their versions may differ in details. However, the emotional impact remains consistent. These memories bond us, creating a shared narrative that strengthens our relationships. The way we remember events with others highlights the communal aspect of flashbulb memories, making them more than just personal recollections. Social media also plays a remarkable role in shaping our flashbulb memories. In today's connected world, we often recount events through posts and pictures. Documenting moments instantly allows us to capture the details while they are fresh. When we look back on our social media feeds, we may find that our recollection aligns closely with what we shared online, creating a collective memory thread. The influence of culture cannot be overlooked when discussing flashbulb memories. Different cultures may prioritize various events, shaping how memories are formed and recalled. Some cultures place greater importance on collective memory, leading to shared recounting of significant historical events. This can create a robust memory bank that transcends individual experiences. Flashbulb memories can also serve therapeutic purposes. They allow us to reflect on life-changing moments, fostering emotional healing. When we revisit these memories, we can process feelings associated with both joyful and painful experiences. This reflection helps us understand how those pivotal moments have shaped our identities and life paths. As we consider the nature of these memories, it's essential to recognize their place in human experience. Flashbulb memories remind us of the extraordinary power of our minds to capture and hold onto life's most impactful moments. They serve as reminders of our ability to feel deeply and connect with the world around us. In conclusion, flashbulb memories are a fascinating aspect of human psychology. They offer insights into how we process emotions, the role of context in memory formation, and the impact of shared experiences. These vivid recollections, while subject to change, remain profoundly significant and shape the way we understand our lives and the world. As you reflect on your own flashbulb memories, take a moment to appreciate the intricate tapestry of experiences that form your unique narrative, celebrating the moments that have left an indelible mark on your journey. The moon has fascinated humanity for centuries, inspiring countless myths and stories across cultures. One of the most intriguing phenomena related to the moon is the illusion that affects our perception of its size as it moves across the sky. This phenomenon, often referred to as the moon illusion, is not due to any physical changes in the moon itself, but rather a trick played by our brains. To understand the moon illusion, let's first observe the moon when it is near the horizon. When it rises above the horizon, it appears larger than when it is high in the sky. Many people have witnessed this curious effect and might have even exclaimed in awe, but why does this happen? Is the moon truly larger when observed near the horizon? The answer is no. The moon maintains a consistent size and distance from Earth, but our brains interpret its size differently based on its position. This illusion can be compared to the way we perceive objects in our environment. When an object is close to us, such as a car parked on the street, we can easily judge its size because we can see it in relation to nearby objects. In contrast, when we see the same car parked far away, it looks much smaller in comparison. Our brains use contextual cues from our surroundings to estimate size. Similarly, when you see the moon near the horizon, your mind compares its size to objects like trees, buildings, or even mountains, which gives you a frame of reference. This relative comparison makes the moon appear much larger. Research has shown that this effect occurs because of our visual perception. When we see the moon at the horizon, we are simultaneously processing a lot of depth information from the landscape around it. Our brains interpret the moon as being larger because it seems to be part of this three-dimensional space filled with familiar foreground objects. Conversely, when the moon is high in the sky, there are no nearby objects for comparison, making it appear smaller. Interestingly, this phenomenon is not unique to the moon. Other celestial bodies exhibit similar effects. For instance, the sun also appears larger when it is near the horizon compared to when it is at its zenith. The moon illusion can even be observed with other objects, such as clouds or balloons, when they are placed next to recognizable landmarks close to the ground. The moon illusion has intrigued philosophers, scientists, and artists alike. It has been the subject of numerous studies and theories over time. The ancient Greeks pondered this mystery, and even modern psychologists have explored the neurological basis of the illusion. Several explanations have emerged, each shedding light on different aspects of human perception. One popular theory is the Ponzo Illusion, which illustrates how our perception of size can change with the context of surrounding lines and angles. In the case of the moon, when it is near the horizon, it encounters an imaginary line created by the ground, which tricks our brains into thinking that it is larger than when it is viewed in the open sky. This theory underscores the complexity of visual perception and the manner in which our brains interpret visual information. Another theory relates the moon illusion to atmospheric effects. When the moon is near the horizon, its light has to pass through more air than when it is directly overhead. This extra atmosphere can distort our view, but while it may slightly change the moon's brightness and color, it does not change its size. However, some researchers believe that atmospheric effects might play a role in enhancing the size perception we experience. Interestingly, the moon illusion is not consistent across all observers. Factors such as individual differences in perception, cultural backgrounds, and even personal experiences can influence how someone perceives the moon's size. Some people are more susceptible to visual illusions than others, and these differences can lead to varying interpretations of the moon's appearance. Culturally, the moon has always held significance. In many traditions, it symbolizes mystery and enchantment. Its appearances at different times of the year, especially during harvest moons or supermoons, reinforce its importance in folklore and celebrations. The moon illusion adds to this allure by creating moments of surprise and wonder whenever we glance up at the night sky. As you observe the moon on a clear evening, take a moment to appreciate this illusion and the way it highlights the complexities of human perception. Notice its changing shape and brightness as it waxes and wanes, witnessing how it influences tides and ecosystems. Understand that even though our eyes may deceive us, the moon remains a constant, majestic presence in our skies. In conclusion, the moon illusion is a compelling reminder of how perception shapes our understanding of the world. Through the lens of psychology, astronomy, and art, this phenomenon provides an opportunity to explore not only the moon, but also the intricacies of human vision. Next time you see the moon rise above the horizon, take a moment to enjoy its incredible size, knowing that it is your brain playing a delightful trick. Cognitive dissonance is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that occurs when a person holds two or more contradictory beliefs, values, or ideas at the same time. Imagine for a moment that you care deeply about the environment. You recycle, participate in cleanup efforts, and strive to live a sustainable lifestyle. Now picture yourself needing to travel frequently by air for work. Each time you board a plane, you are reminded of the carbon footprint that air travel contributes to climate change. This internal conflict is a classic example of cognitive dissonance. The discomfort of cognitive dissonance can manifest in various ways. It may lead to anxiety, discomfort, or even guilt. In our example, you might experience regret for your actions that seemingly don't align with your values. This psychological tension can be quite powerful, prompting individuals to seek resolution. People often do this in one of three ways: changing their beliefs, justifying their behaviors, or finding new information that can ease the contradiction between their thoughts. When faced with cognitive dissonance, our minds are often on a quest for harmony. Picture a musician who loves to play the guitar, but also believes that music should authentically represent human experiences. If that musician signs a record deal that requires them to create music purely for commercial success, they may find themselves grappling with conflicting feelings. To resolve this dissonance, The musician might convince themselves that everyone needs to earn a living, or that they can use their newfound platform to produce more meaningful work in the future. Consider also how cognitive dissonance shapes decision-making. After making a choice, people often find themselves reflecting on their decision. If you decide to buy a new car, but later you come across information about its negative environmental impact, you may experience discomfort. To alleviate this feeling, you might downplay the importance of eco-friendliness in your decision. Alternatively, you might convince yourself that you will make different choices next time. This mental gymnastics reflects the way our minds try to reconcile conflicting information. Cognitive dissonance appears not just in personal choices but also in broader societal contexts. Take the example of people who smoke cigarettes but also understand the health risks associated with smoking. You may hear them say, "I don't smoke that often," or "My grandfather smoked and lived to be 90. These justifications help reduce the discomfort of holding a belief in the dangers of smoking, while partaking in the very action deemed dangerous. Another interesting aspect of cognitive dissonance is how it influences our relationships. In a friendship or partnership, if one person values honesty while the other sees little harm in small lies, a dissonance of values can arise. The former might feel uneasy about their friend's lack of transparency, leading to tension. To resolve the discomfort, the honest individual might either confront their friend or adjust their own beliefs, convincing themselves that minor dishonesty can sometimes protect feelings. Cognitive dissonance can even play a role in politics. Take a political party that advocates for equality, but also engages in practices that appear discriminatory. Party members may feel uncomfortable with this disparity, leading them to rationalize the situation. They might claim that the larger good justifies certain actions, or that any negative actions aren't representative of the party as a whole. This allows them to continue supporting their political affiliation without confronting the dissonance directly. For some, cognitive dissonance can lead to positive change. The discomfort of realizing that one's actions don't align with their beliefs can catalyze personal growth. Individuals might start questioning their long-held beliefs, seeking new understandings, and making more informed decisions. This shift can vary from small changes, like a commitment to healthier eating habits, to more significant life choices, such as advocating for social justice after recognizing systemic inequalities. Understanding cognitive dissonance can also help businesses and marketers craft their messages. When companies present a product that aligns with consumers' values, it can significantly reduce cognitive dissonance. For example, a brand that promotes eco-friendly products resonates well with environmentally conscious consumers, reinforcing their values and reducing the psychological tussle they might feel when considering a purchase. But if a company were to release a product that conflicts with environmental values, businesses could face backlash not just in reputation but in sales as well. Moreover, awareness of cognitive dissonance can enhance our interactions with others. By recognizing that people may be experiencing this discomfort, we can approach discussions with empathy. For instance, when debating differing opinions, understanding where cognitive dissonance might exist can offer a clearer path to constructive conversation and resolution. In essence, cognitive dissonance is part of the complex dance of human psychology. It highlights our struggles to align our beliefs and actions, often nudging us towards change. While it can present challenges, it can also serve as a springboard for self-discovery, encouraging us to reconcile our values with our actions. Through this lens, the discomfort of cognitive dissonance transforms into an opportunity for growth, understanding, and deeper connection with ourselves and those around us. The intricate interplay of beliefs, values, and actions reflects the richness of our human experience, inviting us to navigate life's contradictions with grace and openness. The face inversion effect is a fascinating phenomenon that reveals how our brains are specifically wired to recognize faces. Imagine walking down a bustling street and spotting a friend in a crowd. What happens next is a seamless process. Your brain processes their features, gestures, and expressions in a fraction of a second. But what if that same friend suddenly turned upside down? The experience becomes remarkably different, possibly even confusing. This effect highlights how our brains excel in recognizing upright faces. When you see someone's face in its natural orientation, your brain can easily identify the unique characteristics that make them who they are. We rely on specific features, such as the distance between the eyes, the shape of the nose, and the curve of the mouth. Our mental database of faces is filled with this upright information, allowing for quick recognition. However, when faces are inverted, something interesting occurs. Studies have demonstrated that our ability to identify inverted faces drops significantly. The same friend, who was so easily recognized when facing you normally, might look like a stranger when flipped upside down. Researchers believe that this struggle arises because the brain processes faces holistically. In other words, we look at faces as whole units, rather than a collection of individual features. This holistic processing is disrupted when the face is inverted, and suddenly, the brain loses track of essential face relationships. To understand this more deeply, consider how you recognize an object like an apple versus recognizing a face. When you see an apple, regardless of its orientation, your recognition does not change much. But with a face, turning it upside down can flip our ability to identify it entirely. In fact, various experiments have shown that people experience difficulties recognizing inverted faces, not just in terms of recognizing individuals, but also in emotion detection. When faced with an upside-down face displaying a particular emotion, like happiness or sadness, it can become exceedingly challenging to decipher those feelings. The face inversion effect doesn't stop there. It can be extended to exploring how we respond to different types of faces. Picture a baby's face, filled with innocent wonder, and compared to a complex or expressive adult face. We often find babies easier to recognize even when faces are inverted, because our instinctual responses to their features trigger a unique cognitive pathway. This suggests a fascinating relationship between early life experiences and how we learn to process faces. Another intriguing aspect of this phenomenon is its implications in various fields outside of psychology. For instance, in the world of security and law enforcement, understanding the face inversion effect can help improve facial recognition technology. By realizing that systems designed to identify individuals may also need to account for inverted images, those in charge of creating such technologies can enhance their algorithms to ensure better accuracy. Imagine you are at a social gathering, and someone shows a photo album. Acquaintances from your past stir memories, and you can easily name each person in the images. But if someone turned those photos upside down, the challenge of pairing names to the distorted faces becomes significantly higher. This effect furthers our understanding of not just human interaction, but also highlights the complexities of social relationships. One of the reasons why this effect is so prevalent is due to the evolutionary perspective. Human beings have evolved to recognize faces quickly for survival purposes. Recognizing whether a person is friendly or hostile can mean the difference between safety and danger. Therefore, our ability to process faces in an upright position has become an essential skill in social behavior. Moreover, artistic representations of faces can provide insight into how we perceive individuals. Artists have long experimented with perspectives, including inverted depictions of faces. These artistic choices can prompt viewers to engage with the piece differently, questioning notions of beauty and identity, while breaking away from the typical face recognition pathways. When faced with artistic renditions, it can be enlightening to observe how we analyze asymmetric features and unconventional perspectives that challenge our brain's default expectations. In learning environments, the face inversion effect becomes a topic of exploration for students in psychology, art, and even philosophy. This exceptional effect can serve as an entry point to discuss broader themes of perception, memory, and the intricacies of human nature. It paves a path for examining how our brains can shape and are shaped by our experiences. In conclusion, the face inversion effect offers a wonderful glimpse into the intricate workings of our minds, shedding light on how we understand and relate to one another. It illustrates the importance of context in our recognition abilities and demonstrates that our brains have adapted to prioritize certain cognitive tasks over others. So the next time you see a face, whether right side up or upside down, take a moment to appreciate the marvel of how our minds translate visual information into recognition, connection, and understanding. It's a reminder of just how complex and remarkable our perception truly is in this vast social world. Have you ever looked at a seemingly simple object and noticed it transform right before your eyes, depending solely on the angle from which you view it? This fascinating phenomenon is known as the ambiguous cylinder illusion. Imagine standing in front of a sculpture that seems to shift shapes, revealing its multifaceted nature. While at first glance the object appears as a perfect circle, with the tilt of the head or a slight change in perspective, it morphs into a square, leaving you both intrigued and slightly perplexed. To truly appreciate this illusion, let's immerse ourselves in how our brains interpret shapes and forms. The ambiguous cylinder is not just a straightforward visual trick. It plays upon our understanding of perspective and depth. When we look closely, the object is a cylinder, yet our brain struggles to interpret its true form based merely on the angle of view. This creates a captivating experience where the object defies our expectations and engages our perception in a playful dance. Consider the two-dimensional representations of three-dimensional objects. Artists regularly utilize this principle in their work. You might recall famous paintings or sculptures that look one way from a distance, but reveal intricate details upon closer inspection. This art technique takes inspiration from optical illusions, inviting viewers to engage more deeply with the artwork. As you ponder the ambiguous cylinder illusion, think about how often our perceptions can lead us down a rabbit hole of misinterpretation. In daily life, we might encounter familiar things that reveal new facets when we shift our perspective. For example, an everyday object like a coffee mug can appear as a simple circle when viewed from above, yet from the side, it showcases a distinct form that tells us it is indeed a mug. This shift in perspective enlightens us, reminding us that what we see is often influenced by how we see it. Illusions like the ambiguous cylinder also lead us into the realm of psychology and neuroscience. They illuminate the intricate processes our brains engage in while interpreting visual stimuli. When observing the ambiguous cylinder, our brains make estimates based on previous knowledge and experiences about how objects should appear. This cognitive engagement introduces a fascinating cocktail of art and science, leading to a rich understanding of how we perceive the world around us. Another interesting concept intertwined with this illusion is the idea of, quote, visual ambiguity. This occurs when an object can be interpreted in multiple ways. The ambiguous cylinder embodies this idea remarkably well, allowing viewers to oscillate between two shapes as they continue to observe. This sense of uncertainty can evoke curiosity, prompting deeper engagement as one tries to resolve the conflict between their perceptions and the object's reality. Let's also explore how the ambiguous cylinder illusion can be seen in various forms of design and architecture. Imagine a building that appears differently as you walk around it, offering diverse perspectives and interpretations. Architects have long played with visual elements to create structures that challenge our understanding of space. From modern skyscrapers that seem to twist and bend, to classical buildings adorned with intricate details that tell a story as you move around them, the interplay of perspective and design captivates the observer. In our digital age, software designers and visual artists often incorporate such illusions into video games and animations, creating environments that stimulate the viewer's perception. This not only enriches the user experience, but also invites players to explore their surroundings in unconventional ways, fostering a sense of discovery. The ambiguous cylinder illusion is also a reminder of the power of perspective in broader contexts. Consider how relationships can change when viewed from different angles. A conversation that seems straightforward might reveal complexities through alternate viewpoints, leading to deeper understanding and connection. Just as shifting your perspective on the ambiguous cylinder reveals its true nature, embracing different perspectives on various situations in life can unveil insights that might otherwise remain hidden. While we engage with this illusion, it serves as a metaphor for our journey through life. The world can often seem rigid and defined, yet moments of clarity can arise when we are willing to view things from a new angle. So next time you encounter something that challenges your perception, remember the ambiguous cylinder and the enriching possibilities that come from exploring and embracing a variety of perspectives. The ambiguous cylinder illusion invites us to reflect on how perception shapes our reality and encourages us to see beyond the surface. It is a reminder that our interpretations can shift, leading to fresh insights and discoveries that enhance our understanding of the world around us. By appreciating the nuances of perspective and ambiguity, we open ourselves to a richer experience of reality, full of possibilities and wonder. As we continue to explore and observe, let the experience of the ambiguous cylinder inspire us to remain curious and engaged, always ready to discover the hidden dimensions of our surroundings. Subliminal perception is a fascinating concept within psychology that refers to how we can process information without being aware of it consciously. This phenomenon occurs when sensory input is received and registered by our brain, but does not reach our conscious awareness. In essence, our mind is like a busy street with cars and people moving all around, even if we are simply standing still on the sidewalk. To understand subliminal perception better, Imagine walking down a lively street filled with sights, sounds, and smells. You may hear the distant honking of horns, catch a whiff of freshly baked bread from a nearby bakery, or glimpse colorful advertisements on storefronts. Despite the plethora of sensory experiences swirling around you, your conscious mind only focuses on a few specific things. Maybe you're listening to a podcast, or thinking about your plans for the day. However, even when you're not consciously aware of them, your brain is still processing other stimuli around you. This is the essence of subliminal perception. Your subconscious mind is taking in those sounds, scents, and sights, yet they do not register as conscious thoughts. Research has shown that subliminal messages can influence our thoughts and behavior in subtle ways. For instance, certain marketing strategies utilize these concepts by embedding brief flashes or audio cues within advertisements, aiming to tap into the subconscious and sway consumer preferences. You might remember a commercial where a fast food logo was quickly shown, so fleetingly that you didn't consciously notice it, yet it might have left a lasting impression on your subconscious. Consider a classic example where a study was conducted in a movie theater setting. Picture a film featuring a scene filled with popcorn and soda. In some trials, the words "drink Coca-Cola" or "eat popcorn" were briefly flashed to the audience for just a fraction of a second. Although viewers didn't consciously see these messages, researchers found a notable increase in the consumption of popcorn and soda after the screening. This highlights the potential power subliminal influences can have, even when we're not aware of them. Another area exploring subliminal perception involves self-improvement techniques. Some people use subliminal audio tracks that contain positive affirmations mixed with soothing sounds. Listeners may not consciously hear the affirmations, but the brain still retains the messages. Over time, this process may encourage a shift in self-perception or behaviors, perhaps fostering greater confidence or motivation. Moreover, subliminal cues can manifest in more everyday situations. When watching a movie, you might not consciously pick up every emotional nuance or background symbol, yet these elements can influence your feelings about the characters or plot. The careful choice of music, lighting, and even camera angles can evoke emotions subtly, steering you toward empathy or excitement without you even realizing it. Interestingly, subliminal perception also intersects with our memories. Have you ever experienced a strong sense of familiarity with a song or a scene from a movie, even if you can't quite remember where you first encountered it? This feeling might stem from subliminal inputs. Our brains are adept at filing away bits of information, the rhythm of a melody or a snippet of dialogue, which can resurface unexpectedly, influencing our mood or thoughts about a particular moment. Subliminal perception also has implications in our social interactions. For example, our judgments about others can be influenced by nonverbal cues like body language or facial expressions that we may not consciously register. This means that subliminal clues can sway our opinions before we are even fully aware of our biases, leading us to form certain judgments based on a split-second impression. In many ways, subliminal perception reveals the immense complexity of the human mind. Our subconscious is like an intricate database, where countless images, sounds, and experiences are stored, shaping our preferences and personalities. Even subtle signals from our environment can find their way into this intricate network, often with powerful effects. In conclusion, subliminal perception is a reminder of how much information our brains handle daily, often without our conscious participation. It highlights a rich tapestry of human experience, where the unseen can shape the seen. As you navigate through life, you are likely absorbing countless waves of stimuli, many of which simply fade into the background of conscious awareness, yet play an unseen role in your thoughts and actions. Understanding this intricate dance between awareness and perception opens a door to exploring how we connect with the world around us, shaping our reality in ways both seen and unseen. The Zollner Illusion is a fascinating optical illusion that plays with our perception of parallel lines. When we observe a set of parallel lines, they should appear straight and evenly spaced, yet this illusion introduces a twist. By adding short, angled lines that cross these parallel lines, our brain interprets them in a way that creates the illusion of distortion. This leads us to believe that the parallel lines are not actually straight but bent or skewed. Imagine you are looking at a series of long, horizontal lines. At first glance, they seem perfectly parallel. But then, as you gaze for a moment, short diagonal lines are introduced. These diagonal lines cut across the horizontal lines at regular intervals, and suddenly, those once straight horizontal lines no longer appear parallel. Instead, they seem to tilt and bend away from each other. It's as if the short lines are coaxing the long lines into a dance of distortion. This illusion exemplifies an important concept known as the principle of Gestalt. Our brains automatically group visual stimuli based on patterns, and sometimes this can lead to misperception. In the case of the Zollner illusion, our brains try to make sense of the intersections between the diagonal and horizontal lines. This attempt to create coherence can result in a fascinating misinterpretation of reality. Consider how this might apply in everyday life. Think about how our perspectives can change based on the information we receive. Just like the parallel lines are altered by the overlapping short lines, our understanding of a situation can be skewed by details that may not be as they seem. This is relevant not only in art and design, but also in how we perceive events or interactions in our daily lives. When additional elements are introduced to a scenario, they can change our perspective in unexpected ways. Art and design often use illusions to play with our perceptions. Artists like Escher created work that challenges viewers to rethink reality. The Zollner illusion is no different, as it encourages us to reflect on how our eyes and brain collaborate, sometimes leading us astray. It highlights the complexity of visual processing and serves as a reminder that what we see is not always an accurate reflection of reality. This illusion also opens the door to discussions about how our sensory perceptions can be manipulated. By understanding more about optical tricks, we can appreciate the intricacies of visual interpretation. It's fascinating to think about how our brains construct the world around us, often based on cues and patterns that can be misleading. In practical applications, the principles behind the Zollner illusion can inform various fields, from architecture to graphic design. Designers might use similar effects to create visual depth, or to guide a viewer's attention. For example, the way lines are arranged can lead the eye toward a focal point, or generate a sense of movement across a space. This technique can enhance the aesthetic appeal of a piece, captivating an audience's interest by playing with their perceptions. The Zollner illusion also invites appreciation for the neurological processes at play. Different parts of the brain are responsible for visual processing, and their interactions can lead to both accurate and sometimes misleading interpretations of what we see. The brain works tirelessly to decode spatial relationships, balance depths, and apply learned experiences to new visual stimuli. If you were to conduct an experiment, creating a simple representation of the Zollner illusion could be enlightening. Take a piece of paper and draw several parallel lines. Then, add short diagonal lines that intersect them at various angles. Observe how your perception shifts as the illusion comes to life. You could show this to friends or family and hear their reactions. It can spark an intriguing conversation about visual perception and the power of the mind. In essence, the Zollner illusion exemplifies how our brains are constantly at work, interpreting and making sense of the world through a complex interplay of sensory information. It serves as a reminder to question what we see and to appreciate the layers of complexity that lie beneath our everyday experiences. Moreover, illusions like the Zollner help sharpen our critical thinking skills. They encourage us to look beyond the surface and consider various interpretations of an image or scenario. When faced with information, whether in art or in life, pausing to consider multiple perspectives can deepen our understanding and enrich our experiences. Thus, the Zollner illusion isn't merely a visual trick. It invites us to engage with the mechanisms of perception. It teaches us an important lesson about clarity and distortion, which can apply not only in the realm of visual art, but also in the complexities of human interaction and understanding. The next time you encounter a set of parallel lines, let the Zollner illusion remind you of the extraordinary ways in which the mind interprets and molds reality. The Poggendorff Illusion is a fascinating and thought-provoking geometrical optical phenomenon that can make us reconsider how we perceive lines and angles. This illusion was first documented by the German physicist Johann Poggendorff in 1860. It elegantly challenges our brain's ability to interpret spatial relationships, showcasing the intricate ways in which our visual system processes information. At its core, the Poggendorff illusion involves a series of lines and shapes that create an unexpected visual experience. Imagine a rectangle with a diagonal line that crosses through one side of this rectangle and extends outward. On the other side, this diagonal seems to be misaligned when it meets another transverse line, which runs parallel to one of the rectangle's edges. The mathematical layout can be straightforward, but the way we interpret what we see can be anything but. When you look at this illusion, your brain is tricked into thinking that the diagonal line is misaligned, even though it's perfectly straight. This occurs because our perception is influenced by context. The rectangle creates a visual frame that distorts the way lines appear to us. If you were to view only the diagonal line without the surrounding rectangle, the alignment would seem clear and logical. However, place it in the context of the rectangle, and the brain begins to play tricks. Visual illusions like the Poggendorff remind us of the complexity and limitations of human perception. We often take for granted that what we see is an accurate representation of reality. However, perception is influenced by numerous factors, including surrounding shapes, colors, and even the brightness of a scene. The Poggendorff Illusion invites us to explore how these elements can cause us to misjudge relationships between objects in a two-dimensional space. What is particularly intriguing about the Poggendorff Illusion is how it illustrates the brain's preference for patterns. Our brains are wired to recognize shapes and lines, drawing conclusions based on previous experiences. When something doesn't align with our expectations, like the diagonal crossing the edges of the rectangle, we can become confused. The mind seeks to make sense of what it sees, sometimes leading us far from what is actually true. This cognitive process features prominently in various fields such as art, architecture, and design. Artists have historically played with optical illusions to create depth, movement, and emotion in their works, manipulating our perceptions to surprise and engage. Understanding illusions like the Poggendorff can inform how we create visual arts by leveraging our knowledge of angles and lines to distort reality intentionally. On another note, understanding such visual phenomena can be significantly helpful in fields like psychology and neuroscience, where researchers study how these perceptions work. By examining our reactions to the Poggendorff illusion, scientists can learn more about our cognitive processes, how we recognize patterns, and how our brains adapt to new visual information. These insights can have broader implications, including understanding how we can improve visual acuity, manage optical disorders, and enhance educational approaches. There's something inherently satisfying about exploring why our brains perceive the world in a way that can occasionally be deceptive. The Poggendorff illusion thus serves not only as a visual trick, but as a reminder of the intricacies of human nature, how our minds continually strive to create order and clarity in an environment that often defies logic. If you ever decide to present the Poggendorff illusion to someone, consider watching their intrigue unfold as they struggle to reconcile the disparity in their perception. It can be a wonderful way to engage others in conversations about perception and cognition, and even spark curiosity about the ways our senses can be fooled. In conclusion, the Poggendorff illusion is a remarkable example of how our visual perception can be misled by context. This captivating phenomenon illustrates the complexities of our brain's processing abilities and highlights the interplay between our experiences and our understanding of the world. By delving into visual illusions, we gain a deeper appreciation of art, science, and the intricate workings of our own minds. The next time you come across this illusion, or any others, take a moment to reflect on the principles underlying your perception and enjoy the marvels of the mind's eye. Imagine you are standing by a waterfall, watching the water cascade down the rocks with elegance and power. The flow is mesmerizing, pulling your attention deeper into the scene. After observing this dynamic flow of water for a while, you turn to a nearby rock face that stands silent and still. But here's the twist. Suddenly, that rock face appears to wobble and move as if it were part of the water's current. This curious phenomenon is known as the Motion Aftereffect, an intriguing visual illusion that reveals how our perception can be influenced by what we see just moments before. The Motion Aftereffect occurs due to the way our brains process visual information. When your eyes are fixated on a moving object, like the rushing water, certain neurons in your visual cortex become highly activated. These neurons respond to motion in specific directions and work harder the longer you observe that motion. However, once you shift your gaze to a still image, the tiring of those neurons creates a fascinating effect. Your brain, having grown accustomed to the motion, now interprets the still image as if it too is in motion, leading to that seemingly dancing rock face. This phenomenon is often demonstrated in art and design, where artists play with motion effects to create captivating illusions. A famous example is the work of British artist Bridget Riley, known for her optical art. When you gaze at her paintings, you might feel waves of movement as your eyes traverse the intricate patterns. Once you look away or close your eyes, you may still sense the motion long after you have left the artwork. This lingering effect showcases the motion after-effect at work, reminding us that our perception of reality is not as straightforward as it seems. Another classic example of this illusion can be seen in movie theaters during thrilling action scenes. When the camera pans or follows fast-moving elements, your eyes track the action across the screen. When the film returns to a still frame, such as the calm facade of a building, the after effect kicks in, and the once still image may appear to ripple or sway. This captivating experience adds a layer of depth to our viewing pleasure, engaging our minds in ways we often overlook. In scientific studies, researchers have found that this effect can vary in intensity based on the duration and speed of the initial motion. A prolonged exposure to high-velocity motion, such as a spinning Ferris wheel or a fast-flowing stream, tends to make the subsequent static images exhibit a stronger perceived motion. This principle applies not only to the visual field, but can also be related to other senses, such as touch or sound, where repeated exposure has lingering effects. If you think about it, this dynamic interplay between motion and perception has practical applications in our everyday lives. For example, it can enhance our experiences of nature. When watching waves crash against the shore, the constant movement can energize us. But when we then glance at a pine tree standing tall and still, that tree might suddenly seem to sway softly, enveloping us in a peaceful illusion. It also explains why some people might experience visual disturbances after watching intense action films or video games. The rapid sequences of motion can create an overwhelming sense of movement even when we are in a still environment afterward. It's intriguing to consider how our visual system continuously adapts and recalibrates based on stimuli, and how our perceptions are molded by the experiences we consume. So the next time you're watching a dynamic scene, or observing how shadows dance in the flicker of light, remember that your brain is orchestrating a fantastic display of perception. The world around you may seem simple, but with the motion after effect, the beauty lies in its layers and intricacies. The mind can transform the stillness of a rock face into a vibrant dance, offering a glimpse of the complex machinery of human perception. Engage with this experience. Let your eyes wander and be amazed by how your brain turns a still moment into an enchanting movement. Embrace the curiosity of the world, where even silence breathes life into stillness. As you ponder this beautiful interplay of motion and stillness, appreciate the artistry of perception that colors our understanding of reality. This illusion serves as a reminder that how we perceive the world can change based on what we focus on, opening our eyes to a richer tapestry of experience. It illustrates the importance of movement in our lives, often leading us to re-examine the ordinary moments and appreciate the extraordinary tricks our minds can play. The next time you catch yourself staring into a still scene after a flurry of motion, take a moment to notice how the illusions transform your perceptions, carrying you gently through the visual narratives created within your mind. In the realm of visual perception, there exists a fascinating phenomenon known as the Autokinetic Effect. This intriguing visual illusion occurs under specific conditions, primarily in a darkened environment, where a stationary point of light can appear to move, even when it remains completely still. Understanding the autokinetic effect provides insight into how our brains interpret visual stimuli and how they can be influenced by certain factors. Imagine a room enveloped in darkness, where the only source of light is a single tiny point shining against the void. In this setting, many people report that the light appears to oscillate or drift. This effect is primarily attributed to involuntary eye movements, which occur naturally even when we think we are keeping our eyes fixed on one spot. These tiny, subconscious movements can create the illusion of motion, making a stationary object seem as though it is moving. To grasp how the autokinetic effect works, consider the anatomy of the eye and how it functions. The human eye is designed to constantly gather information from our surroundings. Even when it seems like we are focusing intently on an object, our eyes are still making minor adjustments. These adjustments occur as our brain ensures that the perceived image remains in focus. When looking at the single point of light in a dark space, these minute movements become more noticeable, leading our perception to interpret the light as moving, despite its stationary nature. This phenomenon has intrigued scientists and researchers for many years, leading to various experiments to investigate its underlying mechanisms. One famous study involves subjects looking at a small light in a dark room. Participants often reported seeing the light shift positions, with some describing the changes in angle or distance. In reality, the light remained fixed, but the brain's interpretation was influenced by our natural tendencies to perceive motion. The autokinetic effect isn't just a scientific curiosity, it also has implications in understanding how we interact with visual information in our daily lives. For example, think about scenarios where our focus may waver. When watching a flickering candle, the flame dances and sways, even though it is anchored to the base. In this instance, the observer's brain interprets the movement through the lens of the flicker, which is caused by the burning wax and the air currents around it. Just like the candle, a stationary light in a dark room can harness our visual perception in surprisingly similar ways. Such effects can also be seen in the realm of entertainment and art. Many artists and filmmakers use light and movement to create illusions that challenge our perception. For instance, when creating a movie scene set in a dark environment, filmmakers may choose to include elements that draw the viewer's eyes in such a way that they perceive action where none exists. By controlling the light and shadows, they craft an experience that captivates and engages the audience, keeping them on the edge of their seats. Understanding the autokinetic effect can have broader implications. It sheds light on the nature of focus and attention. In a world filled with distractions, our minds often shift and interpret information in ways that may not align with reality. The experiences we have while observing a stationary point of light remind us of the subtle ways our minds can play tricks on us. In moments when uncertainty strikes, individuals may see movement where there is none, leading to questions about reliability and perception. Interestingly, the autokinetic effect can also be tied to psychological concepts. It reveals how our perceptions can be shaped by context and expectation. For instance, if numerous people are in the room with you and they collectively perceive the light moving, one might feel inclined to believe their experiences as a shared reality over their own perception of the unchanging light. This powerful influence of social dynamics highlights our innate desire to conform and understand our environment through collective experience. So the next time you find yourself in a dimly lit space with a singular point of light, consider the marvel of the autokinetic effect. Your eyes may wander, and the light may seem to dance before you, but this is not merely an illusion. It is a testament to the complex dance between our physiology, psychology, and perception. By embracing this understanding, we can develop a deeper appreciation for how we interpret the world around us, gently reminding ourselves that what we see is not always what is there. Exploring these curious phenomena reveals the richness of our visual universe. Without a doubt, our perceptions can transform even the simplest experiences into sources of wonder and intrigue. The size-weight illusion is a fascinating phenomenon that reveals how our senses can sometimes mislead us about the world around us. It occurs when we perceive larger objects as being lighter than smaller objects, even when both objects weigh the same. Imagine holding a large hollow ball and a small dense stone. Many people would instinctively believe that the stone is heavier simply because it is smaller, even if both the ball and the stone have the same weight. This intriguing aspect of human perception has been a subject of interest for psychologists and neuroscientists for years. One explanation for the size-weight illusion lies in our past experiences and expectations. We often associate size with weight. Larger objects, in our daily encounters, tend to be heavier. When we pick something up, we naturally apply that general rule. For instance, think about picking up a basketball versus a golf ball. The basketball is much larger but often feels lighter due to the air inside it. On the other hand, the small and compact golf ball surprises us with its weight relative to its size. This contrast shapes how we perceive similar scenarios with objects that have equal weights. Furthermore, the illusion also seems to relate to how we engage with these objects physically. When presented with two objects that we are asked to compare in terms of lifted weight, the larger one may require less mental and physical adjustment. Our minds adjust more quickly to the expectations set by the sheer size of the larger object. This quick adjustment often translates into a perception that makes the larger item feel lighter than it truly is. Research suggests that our brain is also involved in categorizing objects based on their expected dimensions and weights. When we see a large object, our brain triggers a set of assumptions about its mass. These assumptions are built on a lifetime of experiences. For instance, consider lifting a large teddy bear versus a small steel ball. The teddy bear is expected to be soft, fluffy, and light, while the steel ball is unmistakably hard and heavy. Despite their vastly different feelings, if both were to weigh the same, the bear would still be perceived as easier to lift. Another aspect of the size-weight illusion includes the role of optical illusions. Sometimes, our vision tricks our brains into making inaccurate assessments of weight. The environment influences how we see and interpret shapes and sizes. For example, a large object placed in an open space may look lighter compared to the same object placed next to smaller items. This can affect our sense of weight, as the larger object appears to blend more with the background, making it seem less cumbersome. The size-weight illusion is not exclusive to everyday objects. It can also be observed in sports. Athletes often practice with lighter or heavier equipment that feels different based on size, which can alter their perception of performance. For example, a baseball bat or a tennis racket that is longer might feel lighter in terms of swing speed, whereas a shorter bat, though equally weighted, could feel heavier due to the physical effort required to control it. Culturally, the size-weight illusion also appears to influence our choices and aesthetic appreciations. Think about art installations or sculptures. Larger sculptures may have a lighter emotional or thematic impact, while smaller ones can evoke somber feelings simply due to their size. In architecture, large buildings are often thought to be grand and majestic, physically imposing yet emotionally perceived as lighter in their influence on space, while smaller structures can provoke more intimate but heavier feelings. So why does understanding this illusion matter? Recognizing that our perceptions can be flawed encourages us to approach situations with an open mind. In various fields such as design, marketing, and ergonomics, awareness of the size-weight illusion can inform better decisions. Designers can create products that feel balanced and appropriate based on user expectations of size and weight, ultimately enhancing usability and satisfaction. In conclusion, the size-weight illusion highlights the complex interplay between perception, expectation, and experience. It teaches us that our senses, while generally reliable, can occasionally lead us astray. Whether lifting objects, appreciating art, or navigating our world, understanding this illusion helps us appreciate the depth of human perception. Our experiences shape how we see and feel about sizes, leading to fascinating interpretations of our reality. The Tritone Paradox is a fascinating auditory illusion that engages the mind in an unexpected way. At its core, this phenomenon involves the tritone, a musical interval that spans 3 whole tones, often described as dissonant or unstable. While tritones have been a part of music theory and practice for centuries, their intriguing auditory illusion is a relatively recent discovery in the field of psychology and music perception. When 2 tritones are played sequentially, an interesting phenomenon emerges. Listeners often perceive the 2 notes as either rising or falling, even though the actual pitches remain constant. For example, if you hear a tritone like C to F sharp, some individuals will perceive that sequence to be ascending, while others will hear it as descending. This varying perception occurs regardless of the listener's musical background, creating an enigma that prompts further exploration into the nature of sound and perception. The origins of the tritone paradox can be traced back to pioneering research conducted by the psychologist Diana Deutsch in the late 20th century. Deutsch's work revealed that certain auditory perceptions are not merely a function of the sound itself, but are influenced by the listener's internal cognitive and cultural frameworks. This raises essential questions about how we interpret the sounds around us, and how subjective experiences can differ widely among individuals. One of the striking aspects of the tritone paradox is that it interacts with the listener's innate patterns of speech, memory, and even their emotional responses. These factors shape how we perceive sound in various contexts. To illustrate, consider someone who grew up in an environment rich in certain musical traditions. Their experiences may unconsciously influence their auditory expectations, leading them to perceive the tritone in specific ways. The tritone interval itself has a profound character, often associated with tension and ambiguity. It can evoke feelings of suspense in a musical composition. Think about how composers utilize the tritone to create drama in their pieces. When this instability is presented to listeners through the tritone paradox, what emerges is a complex interplay of sonic perception and cognitive processing. There are also environmental contexts that can contribute to how the tritone paradox is experienced. Imagine being in a quiet room, free from distractions, versus being surrounded by a bustling crowd. The background noise could subtly affect the way you perceive sounds, including tritones. That's another layer to this auditory illusion, highlighting how our physical surroundings can shape our sensory experiences. Research on the Tritone Paradox has opened pathways to better understanding auditory perception across different cultures. Studies have shown that cultural background can influence one's perception of musical scales, intervals, and even melodies. This means that what sounds harmonious and soothing to one person may evoke a different reaction in another, based entirely on their cultural upbringing. This reveals the rich tapestry of human experience and how diverse our perceptions can be. Another element of intrigue is how the mind interprets the same auditory stimuli under different conditions. For example, listening to the same tritone while engaged in reflection versus during a casual conversation can yield contrasting perceptions. This dynamic assertion demonstrates how fluid our cognitive frameworks are in the realm of sound. The Tritone Paradox invites listeners to explore their musical instincts and analytical capabilities. For many individuals, experimenting with this auditory illusion can be a playful and enlightening experience. Playing tritones in various sequences can evoke laughter, contemplation, or even confusion, each response revealing insights into one's unique auditory processing strategy. Tritones do not limit themselves to the world of music. The principles behind the Tritone Paradox weave through various domains, such as language and communication. Just as an individual can misinterpret the rising or falling quality of a tritone, misunderstandings can arise in conversation when tone, inflection, and context are not accurately considered. This phenomena bridges the gap between sound and meaning and highlights the complexities of human interpretation. In studying the Tritone Paradox, we peered into the ways our brains construct meaning and the perplexing yet beautiful nature of sound. Our perception of sound isn't just a passive act. It involves intricate processes where past experiences, cultural references, and cognitive frameworks converge. This multisensory engagement captivates researchers, musicians, and curious minds alike, offering an endless well of exploration. Whether you are a musician, a scientist, or simply someone intrigued by how sound shapes your world, the Tritone Paradox serves as a reminder of the richness embedded in our auditory experiences. It beckons us to listen closely, to ponder the distinction between what we hear and what we feel, and to embrace the diversity of human perception. So the next time you encounter a tritone, pay attention, not just to the notes, but to the dance of perception unfolding within your mind. Try to hear the music not just with your ears, but with the myriad of experiences that have shaped your perception along the way. Each note tells a story, and in the echoes of sound we find the symphony of humanity itself. Synesthesia is a fascinating neurological condition that blends the senses in astonishing ways, creating a unique and vivid perception of the world around us. Imagine listening to a beautiful piece of music, and alongside the notes you simultaneously see vibrant colors swirling in the air. This is the experience of someone with synesthesia, where one sense involuntarily triggers another, leading to a rich tapestry of sensory experiences. There are many forms of synesthesia, each providing a different perspective on how the brain processes information. One of the most well-known types is chromesthesia, where sounds involuntarily evoke visual perceptions of colors. For example, when a person with chromesthesia hears a piano note, they might see a bright blue hue or a deep purple shade dance before their eyes. Each sound can produce its own unique visual response, making music not just something to be heard, but also something to be seen. Another common type of synesthesia is grapheme color synesthesia, where letters or numbers are associated with specific colors. For instance, the letter A might always appear as red, while B glows in a vivid blue. This creates a colorful mental landscape whenever someone with this condition reads or writes. Those experiencing grapheme color synesthesia might find themselves drawn to certain letters or numbers because of their associated colors, adding an extra layer of meaning to language and mathematics. Additionally, there is a form known as ordinal linguistic synesthesia, where sequences such as dates or numbers are perceived as having spatial dimensions. A person with this type of synesthesia might visualize a number line or calendar spread out in front of them, with certain months or numbers occupying specific locations in their mind. This spatial arrangement can help them remember important dates or times, making their cognitive processes quite distinct from those of others. The world of synesthesia is not just limited to colors and letters. It can extend to taste and smell as well. Some individuals may experience a certain taste when they hear a particular word or sound. For instance, the sound of a bell ringing could trigger the taste of chocolate, creating a delightful interplay between different senses. This synesthetic phenomenon can even influence a person's culinary preferences, as certain sounds may evoke cravings for specific foods, enriching their eating experiences. Research shows that synesthesia may occur in approximately 1 in every 2,000 people, but it is believed that a number of individuals may not even realize they have it. This is because the experiences of synesthesia can often feel entirely normal to those who possess it. They might not see their experiences as unusual, but rather as a natural way of perceiving the world. From a scientific perspective, synesthesia offers valuable insight into how the brain integrates sensory experiences. It challenges our understanding of perception and cognition, highlighting the complex relationships between the various senses. Studies have shown that synesthetic experiences tend to run in families, suggesting a genetic component that plays a role in developing these unique cognitive connections. Moreover, individuals with synesthesia often report that their experiences are consistent and stable over time. If someone sees the letter T as green one day, it will likely remain green for the rest of their life. This consistency further supports the idea that synesthetic perceptions are hardwired in the brain rather than being subjective or fleeting experiences. Artists and musicians have often harnessed their synesthetic experiences to create breathtaking artwork or music. Their ability to see or feel connections between different senses can lead to innovative and inspiring creations. Some well-known figures, such as painter Wassily Kandinsky and composer Olivier Messiaen, have acknowledged their synesthetic experiences and how these influence their work. They tapped into their unique perceptions, allowing their art to resonate in new and unexpected ways. Synesthesia also prompts questions about creativity and perception. It makes one wonder how the way we perceive our surroundings shapes our thoughts and ideas. While synesthesia is a unique phenomenon, everyone has their own ways of interpreting the world, shaped by personal experiences and memories. This highlights the beauty of human perception, where no two individuals experience the same thing in exactly the same way. As we explore the incredible realm of synesthesia, it becomes clear that it expands our understanding of perception and the senses. It invites us to rethink how we experience and interpret our environment, enhancing our appreciation of the beauty and complexity of the human mind. Whether it's through the vibrant colors of music, the intricate relationships between letters and spaces, or the unexpected tastes inspired by sounds, synesthesia underscores the limitless potential of human experience and creativity. Each synesthete offers a different lens through which we can engage with art, language, and sound, reminding us that reality is often more intricate than it appears. The condition of synesthesia opens the door to a world where the boundaries between senses dissolve, and the interplay between them can lead to profound and enchanting experiences. In understanding synesthesia, we not only appreciate the uniqueness of each individual's perception, but also celebrate the rich tapestry woven by our sensory experiences. The Barberpole Illusion presents a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of human perception and how our brains interpret visual stimuli. This illusion is derived from an everyday object, the barberpole, which features a spiral pattern of stripes, often red and white. When we observe this pole, the stripes create an optical illusion that can trick the eye, making it seem as though the pole is rotating or moving in a continuous upward or downward motion. Imagine standing in front of a barber shop, where the familiar sight of the barber pole catches your attention. As you look at the pole, you might notice that, depending on the angle of your gaze, the stripes seem to twist in a way that gives the impression of motion. This is not an actual movement in the object itself, but rather a trick played by our own visual processing system. The illusion is rooted in how our brains interpret lines and shapes. The diagonal lines of the stripes create a conflicting sense of direction. Our brain tries to make sense of these patterns, leading to an interpretation that suggests upward or downward movement. This phenomenon is common in both static images and real-life objects. To further understand this phenomenon, think of how our perception is not solely reliant on the object we are viewing, but also encompasses the context in which we see it. When we observe the barber pole, our brains integrate previous experiences with similar patterns. For example, if we have encountered spirals or diagonal lines in other contexts, we may unconsciously apply those experiences to what we are seeing now. This is known as top-down processing, where our expectations and knowledge significantly influence how we perceive incoming visual information. Interestingly, the Barberpole illusion is not an isolated incident. There are many other visual illusions that reveal similar principles of perception. For instance, consider the Muller-Lyer illusion, where two lines of equal length appear to be different due to the direction of the arrows at their ends. This illustrates how surrounding cues can warp our understanding of size and distance, just as the diagonal stripes affect our perception of movement in the Barberpole. Moreover, the Barberpole illusion can also be analyzed through the lens of optical flow, a concept used in various fields, including psychology and neuroscience. Optical flow involves how objects appear to move relative to us as we change our perspective or position. In the case of the Barberpole, when you shift your viewpoint, the angular position of the stripes relative to your sight can lead to varying perceptions of motion. Another intriguing aspect of this illusion is its application in the design of visual elements. Artists, designers, and even advertisers harness similar principles to grab attention and create engaging experiences. For example, think of how certain brands use swirling patterns or movement-like designs in their logos and advertisements, which cleverly engage the viewer's eye and create a sense of energy or excitement. Furthermore, the Barberpole illusion serves as an excellent reminder of how our brains can easily be deceived. It illustrates the complexity of visual perception and how the brain's interpretation of an image can differ markedly from reality. Scientific research into these illusions reveals much about the neural mechanisms at play. Studies employing functional imaging techniques have shown that specific areas of the brain become active when we view such illusions, providing deeper insight into how we process and make sense of the world. This illusion can also lead to discussions about real-world applications and implications. For example, understanding visual perception is crucial in fields ranging from virtual reality to robotics. In virtual environments, ensuring that users experience motion as they navigate their surroundings without confusing or disorienting effects is vital. The Barberpole illusion exemplifies how easily our brain can misinterpret visual cues, serving as a cautionary tale for designers who aim for a seamless user experience. As we explore these concepts, we also encounter questions about the nature of reality and perception. How much of what we see is genuinely what exists, and how much is merely a construct of our mind? The Barberpole illusion challenges us to consider the subjective nature of our visual experiences, emphasizing the importance of context, perspective, and the intricate workings of our brains. As you reflect on this captivating illusion, consider how often your own perceptions might lead you astray. Be it through optical tricks, ambiguous images, or distortions of reality, it is clear that our view of the world is constantly shaped and reshaped, filtered through the lens of our experiences and understanding. The Barberpole illusion, with its simple yet profound effect, is a testament to the complexity and wonder of human perception, inviting us to ask further questions and stimulating our curiosity about how we perceive everything around us. In summary, the Barberpole illusion captures a brief yet intriguing snapshot of how our minds interact with the visual world. It allows us to see beyond the surface and appreciate the deeper mechanics of perception. Whether it's the red and white stripes of a barberpole or other forms of visual stimuli, these illusions provide endless opportunities for exploration, learning, and engagement with the fascinating nature of human perception. The Pulfrich Effect is a fascinating phenomenon in stereo vision that highlights the complexity of how we perceive motion. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a serene lake, watching a beautiful feather float gracefully on the water's surface. You might not realize it, but your brain is constantly processing visual information from both eyes to create a seamless image of the world around you. This is where the Pulfrich Effect comes into play, demonstrating the remarkable capabilities of our visual system. To understand the Pulfrich Effect, it's essential to consider how our brain interprets the different images that each eye receives. Ideally, both eyes send similar signals to the brain, allowing us to perceive depth and distance accurately. However, the Pulfrich Effect occurs when the images that each eye receives are slightly delayed in time, causing one eye to perceive motion at a different pace than the other. This delay can be created by an obstacle placed in front of one eye, such as wearing a dark filter over one lens of your glasses. When you wear these glasses and observe an object moving, your brain experiences a fascinating discrepancy. The image enters the eye with the filter more slowly than it does the other eye. As a result, your brain interprets these different arrival times of the images as depth, creating an illusion of motion that can be both compelling and disorienting. Picture a swinging pendulum. With the Pulfrich Effect in play, when you look at the pendulum, while one of your eyes is covered with a dark filter, it seems to move in a curved path rather than a straight line. This creates a dramatic illusion of depth, It feels as if the pendulum is swinging not just side to side, but also towards and away from you. It beckons you into a three-dimensional realm, where your perception of reality bends and twists. One interesting aspect of the Pulfrich effect is that it demonstrates how our visual system prioritizes the timing of image arrival over the content of the images themselves. For instance, if you were to watch a video of a simple ball rolling across the screen and half of your view was obscured with a filter, the ball might appear to roll differently depending on which eye perceives the motion first. It's a perfect example of how timing shapes our perception, highlighting how our brains are wired to interpret what they see in relation to all sorts of factors. The Pulfrich effect does not just apply to simple mechanical motions. It can manifest in complex scenarios as well. Imagine sitting in a theater watching a film where a character moves from one side of the screen to another. If one eye were to perceive the movement slightly delayed, the character might appear to float or drift rather than walk. This can add an unexpected layer of engagement to the storytelling, drawing you deeper into the narrative as you experience the subtle differences in motion. Even more captivating is the fact that the Pulfrich effect can vary based on lighting conditions, change the brightness, and you may find that the illusion enhances or diminishes. In a low-light setting where one eye is more sensitive to the dark, the effect becomes pronounced, emphasizing the unique interplay of light and vision. As you explore the Pulfrich effect further, you may discover its connections to various fields, including psychology, art, and technology. For example, artists can use the principles of stereo vision to create illusions in visual art, crafting pieces that engage the viewer's perception in unconventional ways. Similarly, filmmakers may employ techniques that play with these effects, enhancing the cinematic experience. In the realm of technology, virtual reality and augmented reality applications often harness the mechanics of stereo vision to create immersive experiences. While these applications do not rely solely on the Pulfrich effect, understanding its principles can aid in designing environments where users engage with depth and movement in innovative ways. The Pulfrich effect is not merely an optical illusion, but a gateway into the intricate workings of human perception. It invites you to explore and question how we interpret the world around us. From the pendulum swinging in slow motion to the immersive art and technology that captivate our senses, this phenomenon serves as a reminder that there is so much more to our visual experience than meets the eye. As you think about the Pulfrich effect, consider how frequently we encounter various forms of movement in our daily lives. Whether watching a bird soar through the sky or observing a bustling city street, there is an incredible amount of depth and complexity in the way we perceive motion each day. It is a testament to the wonders of human vision and our ability to adapt and interpret the nuances of our environment. In essence, the Pulfrich effect is a fascinating example of how our brain processes and interprets the visual stimuli around us. Its implications extend beyond simple curiosity, offering insights into how we engage with art, technology, and each other. The next time you watch something in motion, take a moment to consider all the processes at work behind the scenes, crafting the experience as you perceive it. Embracing the marvel of perception can lead you to appreciate the extraordinary world that surrounds us, where movement and depth dance together in an ever-evolving spectacle of sight. Have you ever heard of the blind spot in your eyes? It's a fascinating aspect of our vision that illustrates how our brains work to make sense of the world around us. Everyone has a blind spot, an area in our visual field where our retina lacks the photoreceptor cells that detect light. This is where the optic nerve exits the eye, and as a result, there are no images detected in this small section of our vision. You might wonder how we can ever navigate the world if there is a space in our field of vision that we can't actually see. This is where our brain comes into play. The brain is incredibly skilled at filling in gaps in our perception, creating a seamless visual experience. If you were to cover one eye and focus on a point in front of you while slowly moving your gaze, you would eventually notice that certain details or objects seem to vanish. This is your blind spot at work. Let's imagine a simple experiment to understand this better. Find a piece of paper with a small dot on one side and an X on the other side, roughly 6 inches apart. Hold the paper in front of you at eye level and close one eye. Focus your attention on the X while slowly bringing the paper closer to your face. At a certain point, the dot will disappear from your vision entirely. You may even have to move your focus around to find where the dot goes, and it will seem to just vanish. This fascinating effect is a demonstration of your blind spot. Our brains are continually processing the information that comes through our eyes, combining visual data with the knowledge we have about the world. When your eye moves, the brain automatically compensates for the fact that there is missing information in your blind spot. Instead of leaving that area blank, your brain fills it in with the colors and textures of the surrounding environment, creating the illusion of a complete and continuous picture. This phenomenon is not unique to just the human eye. Many animals experience similar blind spots, and they have developed various adaptations to compensate for them. For instance, the eyes of a rabbit are positioned on the sides of its head, granting it a wider field of vision. This way, although they have blind spots right in front of their noses, they can still detect predators in their peripheral view. Nature has an amazing ability to adapt and evolve, and our vision is a perfect example of that. Consider how dependent we are on our vision every day. We navigate crowded streets, read fine print, and enjoy stunning landscapes, all without realizing that there are tiny gaps in our perception. Our brain's ability to interpret these gaps is not just a neat trick, but a crucial function for our day-to-day activities. It helps create a fluid and coherent view of our surroundings, enabling us to interact with the world effectively. Interestingly, the blind spot can also be manipulated in various optical illusions and visual games, which highlight the ways our brain processes visual information. Artists and designers exploit this concept to create images that trick the eye, leaving viewers fascinated at how easily the brain can be fooled. For example, if you look at certain patterns or shapes, your brain may interpret the absent details or even create the illusion of movement or depth from minimal cues. In a technological age, these principles of visual perception have influenced fields like virtual reality and computer graphics. When creating lifelike simulations or immersive experiences, understanding our blind spots and how our brain fills in visual details can help developers create experiences that feel more realistic and engaging. Exploring the mystery of the blind spot can give us a new appreciation for the complexity of our perception. It reminds us that vision is not just about the light that enters our eyes, but also about how our brains work to interpret and make sense of that information. The next time you look at an object or scene, take a moment to reflect on the intricate process occurring in your mind. Even in those moments when it feels like something is missing, your brain is actively working to fill in those gaps and provide you with a coherent view of reality. In the end, our blind spots represent more than just gaps in vision. They highlight the extraordinary capabilities of our brain. This remarkable organ processes an immense amount of information every day, translating the chaotic world into a manageable perception. Embracing this imperfection in our vision can open our eyes to the wonders of our cognitive abilities, leading us to appreciate the intricate balance between what we see and what we understand. Next time you find yourself in a situation where something seems to disappear from your view, just remember the blind spot illusion. Instead of frustration, let it be a moment of wonder at the intelligent design of our visual system. The Zeigarnik Effect is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that shines light on how our minds interact with tasks and memories. Named after the Russian psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, this effect suggests that we have a tendency to remember unfinished tasks better than the ones we have completed. Imagine you're in a busy cafe watching a barista serve customers. As she takes in orders and prepares drinks, you notice how she is effortlessly managing multiple tasks at once. However, if she were to leave a customer's order halfway through, perhaps leaving an unfinished drink on the counter, the interesting twist is that she would likely remember that unfinished task far better than the drinks she has already served. This behavior exemplifies the Zeigarnik Effect in action. This effect was first identified by Bluma Zeigarnik in the 1920s when she conducted an experiment involving completion and recall. Her studies revealed that participants who were interrupted while completing a task were more likely to remember the details associated with that task than those who had completed it without interruptions. In other words, when our brain experiences an unfinished task, it seems to hold on to it, replaying it over and over in our minds until it is resolved. The implications of this effect can be observed in various aspects of everyday life. For instance, if you have a stack of novels on your nightstand, you might find yourself constantly drawn to the ones you haven't finished reading. It is an unfinished narrative that tugs at your mind, making it hard to forget those stories awaiting resolution. Meanwhile, the books that you have finished start to fade from active consideration, since their narratives are now complete and, in a way, resolved. This unconscious focus on unfinished tasks has real-world applications too. Consider a student preparing for exams. If they leave a topic partially understood, their mind may continue to circle back to it, prompting them to engage with that material more frequently than the concepts they've already mastered. This drive to complete knowledge gaps serves as a powerful motivator, spurring people to return to incomplete tasks because the brain prioritizes them. The Zeigarnik Effect can also influence how we manage our time and productivity. For example, if you have a to-do list filled with pending errands or projects, you may find yourself frequently recalling the ones you haven't checked off. Those uncompleted tasks loom in your mind, creating a sense of restlessness. This effect can encourage a proactive approach to organization and prioritization, as one might set aside time to focus on the tasks that are still open in order to gain mental clarity. In relationships, unfinished conversations or unresolved conflicts may linger in one's thoughts. Think of a disagreement that remains unresolved. The emotions tied to that argument can echo in your mind, leading you to revisit the issue repeatedly until it's addressed. This tendency can affect how people communicate and interact, emphasizing the importance of closure in resolving interpersonal issues. The phenomenon is not limited to tasks or conflicts alone. It can also apply to art and entertainment. Think about a movie or series that ends with a cliffhanger. You may find it impossible to forget those unresolved plot lines. The suspense of a story still unfolding keeps you engaged even after the credits roll. Interestingly, the Zeigarnik Effect has led to its incorporation in marketing strategies as well. Advertisers often use unfinished narratives to create intrigue around a product. Campaigns that tease the audience with incomplete offers or unresolved questions can stimulate curiosity, urging viewers to seek completion or more information. This strategic use of the phenomenon taps into the psychological pull that unfinished tasks wield over our attention. In summary, the Zeigarnik Effect reveals an intriguing aspect of human cognition, how our minds prioritize and retain information about tasks we have not completed. It underscores our innate desire to resolve confusion, seek closure, and make sense of our world. This psychological principle intersects with various domains of our lives, from learning and productivity to relationships and entertainment. Understanding this effect not only provides insight into our own thought processes, but also equips us with strategies to manage our unfinished business effectively. By acknowledging the impact of the Zeigarnik Effect, we can navigate our tasks, engage more meaningfully with our commitments, and perhaps even find strategies to ease the burden of the unfinished in our lives.